Perfect way to start your morning right here on KBC Channel 1. Welcome to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike Migo. Today is Wednesday, the 14th of January 2026. A lot is happening in the country, but before we get into that, let me introduce the team. Good morning, Vivian.
Good morning, Mike. How are you this morning?
I am great. It's a great morning.
It's a beautiful morning. Yeah, the weather looks good outside.
Yeah.
It's a good way to start the morning.
Yeah, indeed. Alafu inafika masaa ingine jua inachoma.
Kabisa.
Good morning, Ray.
Good morning to you, and I have a question to both of you.
Please do.
What can 100 million shillings do?
Oh, 100 million Kenyan shillings can do a lot. I mean, I know where that conversation is coming from because, you know, we had a politician complaining that 100 million shillings is little money and it cannot do much for the constituency. But, I mean, 100 million shillings can do quite a lot. Well,
there's no little money, actually.
Yeah.
There's no little money, if you ask me. Whether it's 100 million or 100,000, a lot can happen. A lot can happen through that. And why are you asking that question?
I'm asking that question because we are already in the budget cycle for 2026-2027. This is a process that began sometime last year. But the question is, do citizens participate in the budget-making process? That's one. Secondly, do we hold those who are supposed to be, do we hold them accountable? You know, the ones who get these monies and are in their charge, you know, to work on development, recurrent expenditure and such. Also, I'm asking this question because let's say we've already been seeing what is happening in the political scene. We're already in the campaigns ahead of 2027.
Yeah.
The question is, does Mwananchi get value for the investment they made in the leaders that they chose?
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Because we are having reports of some leaders doing exemplary well, while others are posing those questions. And making those statements. Well, their own citizens are complaining about lack of water, lack of requisite infrastructure, especially the one that is required to ensure that the populace within the constituency is well catered for.
And more, and
we
more
are in
importantly,
a quiesce position.
Yes, and more importantly, you know, Kenyans, thanks to social media and mainstream media, Kenyans have seen what's possible. So when they ask questions based on information. They have a template on which they are referring to. So if they ask questions, as a leader, are you ready to answer those questions based on the possibilities that the Kenyans have seen?
Yes, and these questions need to be asked. You know, the word is accountability. Yes, we need to hold all our leaders accountable because we can't have, you know, some parts of the country not moving forward at all in terms of development in the constituencies, you know, in the counties, and in other places we see, you know, leaders who have actually really put in the work with the money that has been allocated to them. So yes, accountability is the word, and we should all ensure that we are ensuring that, you know, these leaders that we have put to the positions that they are in are actually working for you as the Mwananchi. You know, we have to applaud Kiharu Member of Parliament, Ndindi Nyoro, for the work that he's been doing. I mean, imagining that, you know, as a parent, just knowing that that burden of school fees has been, you know, lifted off your back, you know, knowing that you'll only be paying 500 shillings, 500 shillings only per term. Can you imagine what that feels like, you know, for a parent who has a child
you know that
in senior secondary school?
And you know, he said that that fees applies to any student from any part of the country who is schooling within schools that are located within Kiharu constituency. Yeah. So I think it's time that leaders woke up and Kenyans know how to hold their leaders accountable. And today we'll be having a conversation away from that conversation regarding matters to do with party politics and pre-election pacts, given that in Kenya mostly power is won, or elections are won through coalitions. Speak of 2002, now coalitions, the Jubilee Coalition and now Kenya Kwanza Coalition. But the question here is it about ideological convergence or political survival? And given that now ODM and UDA planning to have that pre-election talks gearing towards 2027 elections. I'll be having in studio with me Honorable Wilson Sosion, who is a former nominated MP, Warimu Gatacha, who is an advocate of the High Court, and also Peter Mutuku Mutua, who is a governance and leadership expert. Vivian?
And later on, after Mike sticks on matters politics, we will be talking engineering, yes, shaping our urban future, or the urban future. And I will be joined by one engineer, Shama Kiteme, who is the President, Institution of Engineers Kenya. We'll also be having the President, Architectural Association of Kenya, that is Mr. George Arabu, as we just try and see, you know, since the year began, we saw 2 buildings collapsing, you know, one in Eastleigh and the other one in Karen. So we are trying to look at ways in which we can engineer a space that is safe for living, you know, for the growing community. So that will be our conversation at around 8 a.m. You definitely want to be tuned in for that. What do we have in the news, Ray?
We have so much in as far as matters of politics, business and sports is concerned, but I'm looking forward to those 2 conversations that you're going to be having, especially Mike Megwe. Right now, when we're looking at the political scene, you've asked a very pertinent question.
Yes.
Are we making political party concessions, so to speak,
Yes.
or partnerships or coalitions because our policies are similar, or for political survival? You know, will history repeat itself, or has the Kenyan voter actually, you know, morphed?
Exactly. And the question of will the Kenyan voter as at now, when it comes to political parties, do they really have trust in those political parties?
You know, back in the day, when I was young and I would listen to conversations from my elders, it would be that statement, tunapiga kura suit.
Yes.
Now, basically, just expose how old I am. Anyway, no worries, but that's a good question.
Yeah.
Then the other conversation, Ndego, you're going to be having in regard to how does the future of engineering look like going forward, looking at the current situation as we're talking. Right now, we have a family that is, you know, seeking compensation and assistance after they lost their kin in those collapsed buildings. So the question is, do we lack the requisite capacity within the engineering space, or in as much as we have the local content policy that's supposed to ensure that as these projects are being undertaken, that we have our local engineers, certified engineers, being the ones that are running these projects? So is it a lack of implementation or capacity? From where I sit, having engaged with the engineering fraternity, we have the requisite local capacity.
Yes.
The issue is, do we have implementation? Can we follow through with what is in paper? You know, those are the pertinent questions, because we have engineers who have now diversified from engineering because they do not get the engineering, you know, opportunities that they have divested, or rather gone into other fields, you know, to try and eke a living, right? In as much as we do not have the right numbers, we have around 15,000 to 2,000, 25,000, that, so to speak. So that's a conversation that is timely. But before we get there, now let's bring you up to speed with those stories that have been making headlines in the last 12 hours. And we start off with some rather sad note. A family in Mbale, Vihiga County, is mourning a man who went missing on Christmas Eve and was discovered dead in a septic tank, a case that has shocked residents. Jane Kasigane, the mother to the deceased, noted that her 43-year-old son, Humphrey Mbalaga, went missing shortly after visiting home. Despite efforts to trace him, the family had received no information about his whereabouts until the shocking discovery. Investigations into Mbalaga's death are currently ongoing.
Residents of Mbale in Vihiga County woke up to a grim scene after a foul smell led members of the public to alert authorities, prompting police officers to visit the site. Upon inspection, officers recovered the bodies of 2 middle-aged individuals, a man and a woman, under circumstances that have raised serious concerns among locals. One of the victims has since been identified as 43-year-old Humphrey Mbalaga, who went missing on Christmas Eve. Speaking in grief, Jane Kasigane, the mother to the deceased, described the moment she learned of the recovery of her son's body as devastating.
Hata nilikuwa nalia lakini nikaambia Mungu nifunge kamba. Nifunge kamba. Nisilie. Sijui ni nini imetokea kufanyika hivyo. Kama ni yenyewe imejilete ni sawa. Na kama ni mwanadamu ameenda juu chini anataka kumaliza mji yangu, nimemwachia Mungu.
She termed the incident a double tragedy, revealing that the family is still mourning the death of her husband who passed away in October last year.
Kwa tunaomba tumalize hiyo mwaka vizuri. Ndio hii ikatokea Disemba. Mpaka saa hii ndio tumepata hii msiba. Sasa hapa mimi naomba serikali nisaidie. Nisaidie, hii maneno ni maneno mzito. Kwa sababu hii maneno imefanyika kama hatuna mbele na nyuma.
Mbihi Assistant Chief Alex Omenda says a second victim's body is yet to be identified as the bodies were found in an advanced stage of decomposition.
So mpaka ile wataalamu wataingilia zaidi ili tuweze kusaidika, ili tuweze kutambua ni mili ni ya kina nani.
The bodies have been moved to Vihiga County Referral Hospital mortuary, where postmortem examinations are expected to be conducted to aid investigations.
We'll be keeping tabs on that development there. Now, a distraught mother from Ndiwa village, Homa Bay County, is demanding answers over alleged negligence at the Kendege prison after her 25-year-old son suffered severe burns, which are not reported to the family. Caroline Akoth says prison officials failed to notify that her son, Lawrence Oguda, had been badly injured despite having her contact information. Oguda, who is serving a 6-year sentence, is now fighting for his life at the Migori County Referral Hospital after sustaining extensive burns inside the prison kitchen in Kenyatta, Migori County. John Kahiro has that story.
The Migori County Referral Hospital, a mother is in anguish and tears. Desperate, she searches for answers about her son's condition. According to Caroline Akoth, mother to Lawrence Oguda, she only discovered her son's condition on the 5th of December 2025 during an unplanned visit to the facility.
Wakaniuliza ni nani amenipigia simu, nikamwambia kuna mwenye alinipigia simu, mimi nimeona tu nikuje nione mtoto wangu sababu nimemmiss. Wakasema ati kuna shida kidogo. Nikamwambia kwani nini imefanyika, nikauliza nini imefanyika. Wakasema ati alikuwa amepata tu accident kidogo, alikuwa kwa jikoni na bahati mbaya akateleza akaanguka.
Pain written all over her face. Akoth says she was told Oguda had suffered a minor injury but was stunned when she found him severely burnt and bedridden inside the prison's dispensary.
Kauliza daktari, kwani kiwango ya hii moto iko ngapi? Akaniambia ati hii kiwango si mbaya, ndio maana tuko na yeye hapa. Ingekuwa mbaya singekuwa na yeye hapa, singemweka hapa kwa dispensary yetu.
Despite assurances that Oguda was recovering, Akoth says his condition worsened, forcing her to demand his transfer to a higher level facility. The family is now questioning why the prison withheld information about the injury and whether Oguda received timely and proper medical care, pointing to a possible negligence.
Kwa nini wanamwacha huko ndani na wanajua kiwango ya moto imefika juu hivyo na wanamweka huko kwa dispensary kwa prison huko ndani? Si wangemtoa mapema watafute na yeye matibabu, hata kama sasa napigiwa simu naambiwa mami mtoto wako amepata ajali kidogo lakini tumemtoa ako hospitali fulani. Hiyo ingekuwa afadhali, lakini sasa wanaacha mpaka mimi mwenyewe ndio niende.
In a rejoinder, the Kendege prison officials say Oguda slipped and fell into a cauldron of hot porridge during a kitchen duty. And inside the facility, reconstructive surgeon Dr. Michael Kibira confirms that Oguda suffered severe burns covering more than half of his body and requires specialized treatment.
suffered some 55% actually burns, suffering involving the back, the lower limbs and both upper limbs. The patient came to us about 2 months after suffering these burns, so we are trying to do the best we can with the situation that he is right now. Currently, he came to us actually suffering from burn sepsis. So we are trying to give him some antibiotics, time to give him some fluids, and to actually just make him comfortable with some good dressings and pain management.
So the said prisoner, that is Oguda there, was received at that particular health facility having suffered burn sepsis dated 2 months. Well, something doesn't sound right there. We'll be keeping tabs on that developing piece from Migori. Now, cross borders, the Uganda government has ordered for an indefinite temporary shutdown of public internet access and selected mobile services commencing yesterday evening ahead of its general elections slated for Thursday this week. The Uganda Communications Commission's directive is expected to affect access to internet, registration of new SIM cards and data roaming services. This even as a section of human rights activists raised alarm over what they describe as a shrinking democratic space ahead of the elections.
Hours before Uganda heads to the polls, that has attracted the interest of 8 candidates, including incumbent President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and his arch-rival Robert Chagulanyi, popularly known as Bobi Wine. The Ugandan authorities appear to have taken a drastic move in what it says will stem the spread of misinformation, disinformation, electoral fraud and incitement to violence. The Uganda Communications Commission, in a statement, says internet access, new SIM card registration and data roaming will be temporarily restricted beginning Tuesday evening. The Commission, in its directive, targets social media platforms, web browsing, video streaming, personal email services and messaging applications. Operators have also been directed to disable mobile virtual private networks or VPN services on their networks. Healthcare services, banking services, government systems and other essential services providers have, however, been spared from the directive. The shutdown will continue until the Commission issues a notice lifting the order. In the meantime, a section of activists claim the anticipated election will not be credible owing to shrinking democratic space. Speaking in Nairobi under the banner of Africans for Africa, the activists accused the Justice Simon Mugenyi Byabakama-led Electoral Commission of bias, intimidation of opposition candidates, and facilitating an environment that undermines free and fair elections.
Main organizations were denied accreditation for monitoring the elections. A lot of organizations have been banned. The other political contenders that were in the race, most of them have been treated unfairly.
When you look at even in Kampala right now, in major towns, the UPDF has taken over. In fact, the Electoral Commission is not in charge. It's the police, it's the military.
The Electoral Commission has repeatedly denominated candidates of the opposition party from the nomination list, hence giving an unfair advantage to the NRM candidates, some going unopposed.
Now, I don't know to say if we'll be following up on what is happening in Uganda come the 15th, which is on Thursday, but we'll try and keep tabs with what is happening in across that particular neighboring country. If you are on social media platforms, there's been a lot of discourse in regard to human rights and especially access to information. So one of the trending hashtags on X at the moment is actually Bobi Wine. So if you haven't gotten or rather learned what is happening in Uganda and you have your persons and you're keen in Uganda, you might as well just find out how they are and how the situation is. You might also give this particular feedback to us through our various channels, including X at KBC Channel 1. Do you have an update in Uganda? What are the people on ground saying? All right. Now, learners across the country continue reporting to their various senior schools on the second day of admission. However, despite the exercise being seamless in some institutions, parents expressed concern over inconsistency in requirements listed in admission letters from the government and those from the schools. Some learners are, however, yet to get placement to any school as of yet.
At Homa Bay School in Homa Bay County, Grade 10 learners are streaming in for admission a day after the exercise started countrywide. However, parents are raising concerns over some learners yet to get placement.
Some students are still at home. Some students have not got the letters, although there was some change that the government made, but it was not enough for all the students in Kenya. So some are still missing the place to go.
According to Lucy Omolo, the situation has particularly affected children from poor families.
That one should be considered because some are coming from the poor family. They should be taken to the nearest school because they want they can learn in day school.
Naona ni kama serikali na shule wanafaa in future kila kitu ikuwe inaambatana. Si ati unafika shule unapata zile zenye serikali alikupatia ni tofauti kidogo na ya shule. Okay, kama kwa ile barua ya serikali ilisemekana tununue vitabu. Ilisemekana tununue vitabu. Mahali kama hapa tunapata vitabu ziko zile za shule.
Transfer requests are already approved by other schools, but a few number around 20 to 30 are still pending. We believe by the ministry will sort it out.
At St. Joseph High School in Githunguri, school principal Francis Miano called upon parents to continue registering their students since the school has enough classrooms to accommodate 500 students.
The CBE system is new. There will be the issue of assigning these students classes, given that they are doing very many combinations. And therefore, we may have a challenge of ensuring that the students are able to fit into the various pathways.
Pesa ya basari na mambo ya capitation iwe inaachiliwa mapema. Diposa wazazi wae wanachukua basari kwa mapema na shule hiyo inasaidiwa mambo na capitation mapema waweze kujiandaa mapema.
And we would request the government to continue doing it so that the laboratories, the books, even the teaching personnel can be added to be able to cater for the big numbers.
By early Tuesday, 250 students had been enrolled in grade 10 in the school. These 355 schools in Mwingi Central Constituency, Kitui County, have benefited from books donated by Kitui Chief Officer in charge of Finance, John Makau.
Wazazi wa area hii huzingatia sana mambo ya kilimo, lakini mvua haikunyesha vizuri, ndipo sasa akaonelea ni vyema ili aje apatie watoto vitabu na kalamu kwa sababu mazao hayakuwa mazuri mwaka huu.
We'll take a quick breather. Remember, this is in the headlines and you can be part of this conversation. Get us on X at KBC Channel 1. For now, that breather, we'll be back with more.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we
have to do it twice.
You two should consider street performance.
We'll do it once back.
Did we spend just now? 300 yuan?
What's wrong? 120,000 shillings.
120,000?
How much did you give?
1.2 million.
Huh?
Why do you give me 1.2 million?
Why? Why? Hey, ladies, help me out.
Keep asking him.
Brother, okay, so please, next time when you pay, be careful, okay?
Oh, thank you, sir. You're so kind.
Got into modeling when I was just watching on the TV, saw how kids out here inspire their talents, and that's how I decided to join modeling and come out and shine to my talent.
And the book we're going to read today is Cocorico, Who Woke Me Up.
A tutor who tutored the flute tried to tutor two tutors to toot.
I'll be preparing for you an Italian grape cake.
They make us remember the motherly song, Akili Akili.
Welcome back. You're watching In the Headlines on Good Morning Kenya. I'm Regina Manyara. Now, the family of Raphael Mwandika, who died after a building under construction collapsed in Karen, is demanding compensation and justice for their loved one. The family says since the death of Mwandika, they have not received any communication from either the owner of the building or relevant authorities.
At the Nairobi City Mortuary, as the family of the late Raphael Mwandikwa, who died after a building under construction collapsed in Karen, await the post-mortem results of their loved one.
Around 4:50 ndio nilipiga bado simu yake tena ikashikwa na jamaa fulani, sikumbuki jina lake, akaniambia, nikamuuliza mwenye simu ako wapi, akaniuliza wewe ni nani kwake, nikamwambia mimi ni bibi yake, akaniambia huyu jamaa amepata ajali na ni kama ameatuacha.
The family says they still have many unanswered questions on the death, with those expected to give them answers going mute on them.
Hakuna mtu yeyote amewasiliana, contractor, foreman wote, hata mwenye nyumba hawajawasiliana. Bado tunangoja tuone kama watatufikia.
Raphael's wife, Rachel, said her husband was the breadwinner and is appealing to well-wishers for financial support.
Mimi niko na watoto wadogo na niko jobless. Huyu ndiye alikuwa breadwinner. So mimi naomba tu wajitokeze, we just have a seat na tujue Raphael atapata aje justice.
The body is at City Mortuary and will be laid to rest on 24th January at his home in Kitui County. The ill-fated building caved in on Saturday, killing 2 people and injuring 7 others.
is going to be forming part of our conversation later on Good Morning Kenya, as Vivian Ndegwa is going to be engaging stakeholders within the engineering space. We're talking about the REK President, Engineer Shama Kiteme, alongside Engineer Architect George Arabu, who is the President of the Association of Architects in the country. The conversation is, how does the future portend, for engineering going forward, and also how do we decisively address the issue of incompetency or their lack of, implementation of the 40%, local 40% local content policy that is already there in this particular space. You can be part of this conversation. Get us on X at KBC Channel 1. That effectively takes us to matters business, where the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi has defended the proposed sale of 15% stake in Safaricom to Vodacom, arguing that growing pressure on public finances has created the need to mobilize alternative funding for priority expenditure without increasing public debt. Mbadi says relying on dividends enterprises the government has a stake in is no longer sufficient given competing demands for infrastructure financing. Trevor Ngendo with the details.
Yes. Did we give these other shareholders information?
How do you secure? How can we reinvest this money so that it will go to the purpose intended?
Are we diversifying this particular investment? And then we have the money sitting in our bank accounts, not absorbed for the next 1 or 2 years.
This money is going to be used exclusively to set up a seed capital national infrastructure fund.
Under the proposal to sell 15% of its stake in Safaricom to strategic investor Vodacom, the government targets to raise 204.3 billion shillings. After the transaction, the government would retain a 20% shareholding and 2 seats on Safaricom's board, which the National Treasury says will safeguard national interests and preserve Kenya's digital and innovation leadership.
There is a reason why we are going to the market to raise funds, and that reason is to send up a national infrastructure fund. As a government, we are projecting that we want to raise about 500 to 600 billion as seed capital.
Mbadi says Vodacom, which already holds a 40% stake in Safaricom, was the preferred strategic investor due to its long-standing partnership with the company, which means less disruptions. As part of the transaction, Vodacom has made several commitments aimed at protecting local interests, including a pledge of no acquisition-related redundancies for at least 3 years, retention of Kenyan leadership through a Kenyan chairperson and independent directors, and continued support for the Safaricom Foundation's social and community programs.
They will control the elections, they'll control security, they'll control everything. Have we sat down to really think twice about selling Safaricom? Ownership or shareholder ownership does not apply when it comes to security, data protection and all that. It is our laws.
According to the National Treasury, the final negotiated price of 34 shillings per share represents a 17% premium over the prevailing market price, valuing Safaricom at 1.158 trillion shillings.
We decided to retain 20% strategically, but that does not mean that tomorrow, if we see the need, and I want to put it very clear, so that when it comes again another time that we are offloading more shares, Kenya should not come up and say that we said we were only offloading 15. 15% is what we are offloading now. That is what we are divesting now. But a decision can be taken again in future by this government or any other government.
The proceeds from the sale are expected to support priority infrastructure projects as the government seeks to reduce borrowing. With key agencies weighing in, the final outcome now rests with Parliament, whose decision will determine the state's stake in the telecoms giant.
And we'll be keeping tabs on that. Now crossing over to sports, the National Olympic Committee of Kenya has officially launched the 2026 Athletes Week in Nairobi, bringing together 140 athletes from over 30 national sports federations. The 4-day seminar will conclude this Friday.
Speaking after the launch, NOC President Shedrack Maluki stressed that the athlete welfare remains their top priority as Kenya heads into the demanding international competition cycle.
Tunataka muweke bidii zaidi manake tunataka mng'are. Mking'ara taifa inang'ara, mking'ara Kenya inasifika. Hiyo bendera yetu ya taifa wakati inapandishwa kumlingoti, nyimbo ya taifa ikipigwa, dunia nzima ikisimama wima kwa sababu umeshinda, ni kumaanisha mamilioni yote ya Wakenya wako nyuma yako.
He noted that with major events such as Milano Cortina Winter Olympics, the Dakar 2026 Youth Olympic Games, and the Glasgow 2026 Commonwealth Games, holistic athlete support is no longer an option.
We understand you because, as I said earlier, we've been in those shoes. We will be working to ensure that there are programs that ensure your transition is smooth. You don't just expire. We train you back to start giving back to the same federations where you guys are coming from.
The Athletes Week combines two key initiatives: the National Athletes Forum running on the 13th and 14th of January, and the Athlete 365 Career Plus program scheduled for 15th and 16th January, creating one unified platform for athlete dialogue and capacity building.
If you are a generation that is fearless, you are a generation that can conquer, you are a generation that can do what we did not do, I see champions in you.
The focus is on ensuring athletes actively participate in shaping conversations around their careers, well-being and representation in sport.
Still on sports, athletes looking to jumpstart the 2026 season will be in action this weekend as the second leg of the Athletics Kenya Track and Field Weekend meeting takes place at Thika Stadium. The Vihiga meet has been expanded into a 3-day program following the cancellation of the opening leg that was scheduled for Mumias. All events initially planned for Mumias will now be staged in Thika, creating a packed schedule featuring 19 track and field disciplines. Athletes will compete in sprints, middle and long distance races, hurdles, steeplechase, race walk and a wide range of field events, including the combined events for decathletes and hepathletes. Now, Athletics Kenya says the competition is a key for early testing of the athletes' preparedness for a busy 2026 calendar that includes the World Relays, Commonwealth Games and 2 Global Championships later in the year. And soccer lovers, AFCON is underway and we are already in the semi-finals, so to speak. So tonight at exactly 8 p.m, Senegal is going to be squaring it out with Egypt, while Nigeria is going to be taking on Morocco at 11. Place your bets. Who's going to win? Well, time will tell. So 8 o'clock and 11 is when this semi-final is going to be taking place. You can make sure you watch. We're going to be keeping tabs on that and bring you the results after. Now, I want to hand you over to the other side of the studio where Mike Megwe is on standby with our various guests this morning. And the conversation is around the political scene and looking at governance and leadership. So what we are seeing in the political scene in as far as political party allegiances, is it because those people have, you know, the same goals and the policies are similar, or is it for political survival? That's a question that is going to be answered by Mike Megwe. Take it away, Mike.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Ray, for that. And exactly, you have alluded to what we are going to talk about, given that, elections in Kenya have been won through coalitions. Speaking of NAC coalition in 2002, we have Jubilee coalition of 2013, Kenya Kwanza in 2022. And now that UDA and ODM are in pre-election pact talks, the question here is it about political survival? Is it about ideological convergence? That forms the basis of our conversation. But before we get to that, I want to take us through the front pages of our local dailies. And I'm going to start with the Standard. Ruto reality check. President William Ruto's hold on Mount Kenya is weakening. His climb up the mountain is getting slippery. his latest tour, where only 2 governors out of 11 joined him to launch projects, is a pointer to a switch in allegiance. Once drawing massive organic crowds, it now depends on allies to mobilize supporters and influence projects. Many local leaders fear backlash over unpopular policies and his fallout with former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Analysts warn with 2027 approaching, Mount Kenya politicians are recalculating support, leaving Ruto's once solid base increasingly fragile. That story is told in detail on page 5 of the Standard newspaper. Moving on to the Daily Nation. State 39 billion shillings legal fees scam. A court order barring public agencies from hiring private law firms has revived the debate on huge legal fees. The government incurs despite employing state lawyers. The story is told on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. LSK president backs advocates' fees as lawyers head to the polls next month. Held funding strain as more learners qualify for varsity dilemma. Now, following the release of 2025 Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education exam results, the number of students eligible for university admission has risen to over 270,000, up from 246,000 who qualified in 2024. The Higher Education Loans Board estimate about 90% of these students will apply for loans, putting more pressure on a tight budget, even as the agency targets to recover 6 billion this year. Read that story on page 7 of the Daily Nation. Ruto's plan to regain support in Mount Kenya. Buoyed by the outcome of November 27 by-elections, President Ruto has stepped up his political incursion in Mount Kenya. After months of keeping off, the ruling party recently held grassroots elections in the region, with the president currently inspecting projects. That story is told on page 10 of the Daily Nation. On matters economy, 204 billion from sale of Safaricom shares to fund capital projects. Treasury plans to spend money raised from the partial sale of government shares in Safaricom exclusively on infrastructure project. That story is told on page 8 of the Daily Nation. And finally, on the front page of the Star newspaper, ODM secret card as party starts 2027 election pact talks with Ruto. That story is told on page 6 of the Star. Raila party agrees to open coalition deal with Kalonzo. President milks World Bank's 5 billion quote-unquote hustlers pass to charm youth and women. That story is told on page 4 and 5 of the Star newspaper. MPs challenge Badi on Safaricom sale, seek assurance on job losses. That story is told on page 2 of the Star newspaper. Iranian crisis poses little impact on Kenyan tea farmers. That story is told on page 11 of the Star newspaper. Basically, that is what is captured on the front page of our local dailies, and you can get one and read more on the stories that are being reported there. Now, getting back into our day's conversation, we are looking at party politics and pre-election pacts, given that in 2020 2022, Kenya Kwanza won the elections, and also in 2002, NARC coalition did take, and in 2013 there was the Jubilee coalition. That will form the basis of our conversation, but we are coming back to that in just a short while. Stay with us.
Mimi niko hapa kwa sababu yenu nyote. Si nimekuambia wewe ukae ndani huko?
Huwa kuna kesi huko.
Atakaa ndani miaka hii.
Na suna ka smart.
Nataka niende kwa chief. Aliniambia leo kuna kesi nyingi na yetu ndio ya mwisho.
Tafadhali naomba tuzungumze. Kwa hivyo nikikupa any prize wewe uko sawa. Hata kama milioni 1.
Afadhali nifungwe maisha.
Nikifuata sheria kisawa sawa, inabidi utoe 100k.
Kwani hali yangu ilikuwa mbaya sana? Uje hospitali?
Wewe ulijuaje kwamba huyu amekwenda Lanza alikuwa anabadilisha?
Alipigia mzungu simu akamuuliza kama alibadilisha jina. Yote ni porojo. Mimi nataka haki.
What is so where is the balance between what's a good decision and what's a godly decision?
Parents or like mentors or pastors, they're older than us, so they've experienced more than what we have. So when they tend to give us those advice or decisions to make.
He felt bad after because the decision isn't good in the end, because God's decisions are always good, so we should always follow them.
If it's good according to the standards of the world, then it is not necessarily godly.
I think our environment and things we interact with, like social media and friends, they most of the times influence the kind of decisions that we make.
Hautaabudu yoyote wala kuelekeza ibada yoyote kwa mwingine asiyokuwa Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, bali ibada zako zote utakuwa mwenye kumwelekezea Allah. Unapokuwa na matatizo yoyote utakuwa mwenye kumkimbilia Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Masharti haya ni kuwa na imani ya neno lile. Useme neno ambalo huna imani nalo.
Mama mbele yono kuwasomea somo la asma. Arnabon songora. Asadun sim anana.
Sallim daiman abadan ala hali.
Glad that you're still watching KBC Channel 1. This is Good Morning Kenya's The Viewpoint. We want to delve into today's topic, and it's about party politics and pre-election pacts. Given that now the ODM and UDA are in that phase in the gear up towards 2027 elections, and the big question from all this, and that is what I am going to start with. Is it a matter of ideological convergence or political survival? To help me in this conversation in studio on my far left, I'm joined by Honorable Wilson Sosion, a former nominated MP. Karibu sana.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Good.
Kabisa kabisa.
Yes, no complaint.
And also Wakili Wairimu Gatasha, karibu sana.
Asante.
And Happy New Year, because we are seeing each other for the first time this year.
Yes, Happy New Year to you.
Yes.
To these very honorable gentlemen I share the panel with, and to all Kenyans.
Karibu sana. And Peter Musuku Mutua, who is a governance and leadership expert. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
How are you doing this morning?
Very well.
Actually, I will start with you. in this whole matter about these pre-election pacts. From your perspective, is it about convergence of ideas, ideological convergence, or it's a matter of political survival?
First of all, what guides the pre-election mergers or coalitions, it's based on ideologies. Along the line, as people move on, they may change or start moving away from their original agreement. But ideas, ideally, should be the reason why people come together. For survival, because I do not want to imagine it's just for survival, because if it were for survival, then we would have seen something like when 2002, you remember 2002 when NAC came into power, when the third president of the Republic of Kenya, the late Kibaki, was elected. There were a number of political parties that came together, and as a result, there was a win on their side. And it's from then that informed what kind or type of politics that moving forward that Kenyans were to do. You remember even in 2007, similar, though it was thereafter, that there was also between PNU, then ODM Kenya then, and the other small parties came together. And then you remember then in 2013, it was, people remember just TNA, but there was under TNA there was UDM, where the current president was aligned to. Then they joined hands and they formed the government, and it kept on happening. And now it's happening today when you see ODM and UDA start talking and agreeing that they need to come to a coalition so that they gain more chances of forming the next government. So basically it's supposed to be based on ideas. If it is not, then maybe along the way we'll decipher and see whether it was driven by other factors and not what we see on the surface. Yes.
Wakil, what do you think?
Mike, I think anytime we have two or more parties coming together, there is always something that they share in common, because they cannot come together when they are on divergent views. And history has reminds us that most times it has been a strategic move so that they can, that is time bound, usually comes pre-election, sometimes mid, after governments have been formed. And ideally it is a convergence that we have seen, that one, there is shared ideologies, because to move together you must have something in common. Two, it is also strategic, because they also look at the electoral math so that they can deliver a win. But beyond that, there is also service delivery, which is what Kenyans want to see. We want to see a team that will come together, form government and deliver services, improve the livelihood of Kenyans, create job opportunities, and safeguard the rights and the freedoms of every Kenyan. Yes.
Of course. Mheshimiwa Sossion, you know, Kenya's political history has this, has a plethora of, or you could say a pattern of coalitions. But from your perspective, what do you think, what factors make such arrangements inevitable within our political system?
In multi-party systems, in many democracies or jurisdictions, coalitions is not new. Coalitions is a common practice of political parties coming together to form government pre-election or post-election. You've seen in some jurisdiction, just right after election, you hear a given party has won the elections, but cannot form government unless you invite another party, because democracy requires majoritarian legitimacy. And to gain that legitimacy, you must have this kind of coalitions in an environment of many political parties. And if you look at it in Kenya, the patterns in Kenya, as it has been perfected very well, and it follows the fashion of those democracies, particularly in the global north. In 2002, there were many political parties that came together to form the National Alliance Rainbow Coalition. That was a group of political parties, and they produced one presidential candidate. But the objective at that time was to defeat Kanu and form government. And it was guided by a loose agreement that was not respected post-election. That led to the breakup. In 2007, the Orange Democratic Movement was not actually a political party as such. It was a coalition of the like-minded, those who wanted to see Kibaki regime out of State House. And it worked. Only that those results were never rightly declared, and they will never be rightly declared. That's a fact. And in 2013, there was Jubilee Coalition, which brought together the National Alliance Party, which was formed by Uhuru Kenyatta, together with United Republican Party of William Ruto, which was a breakaway from ODM. And there was, within 2013 also, there was court of Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Mudavadi, and the rest. That was a coalition. And the mathematics of winning the ballot is a coalition. I don't think we are going to have a political party that will go it alone in this country. In 2017, there was Jubilee actually fused to form the Jubilee Party. It ceased to be a coalition. It became a Jubilee Party. And to defend government of President Uhuru and William Ruto, together with other like-minded parties. But the NASA that coalesced around Raila Odinga brought together ODM, Ford Kenya, ANC, Wiper, and that is why the elections of 2013 and 2017 were so close, because the coalitions that were formed almost had equal numerical strength across the country. That's a fact. And in 2022, the Kenya Kwanza coalition that brought together the UDA, the largest party for that matter, together with ANC, together with Ford Kenya, and PA, Chap Chap, and others. And of course, it caused some attrition in a loose super coalition that had come up called Azimio. And Azimio suffered some attrition and lost elections eventually. Azimio was not a political party. It was a coalition that was patronized by the outgoing president, Uhuru Kenyatta, and it lost elections. But then very narrowly, if you look at the numbers, very narrow, very close. So the politics of elections of Kenya as a superpower democracy within the region will still be guided by coalitions forming. And post-election, we have seen in Kenya the formation of the broad-based government. It is not a coalition. It is broad-based, expanded by the president, and invited the like-minded people from other political parties. Because we have also accepted in running government, you don't need to close out people. You need to bring as many people on board as possible. And that alone, the broad-based government philosophy and arrangement has endeared to many in the political shades where their leaders were invited to the broad-based. And that informs a fact that everybody knows, even those who are new in Jerusalem, that ODM and UDA the only thing that stands between themselves is a clear agreement on the table as a pre-election, and it will happen. So it's common fact that we'll have a strong coalition of ODM and Kenya Kwanza. Let me not say UDA. Let me not say UDA. Let me say ODM and Kenya Kwanza. But it will begin, the frontier will be between UDA and ODM. And we have seen the effect of this in the by-elections. All the 7 parliamentary seats were swept by that coalition. And the genetic coding of the two sides is that their manifestos are completely similar. The philosophies are the same. The aspirations are the same. These are social democratic parties, and it is easy for them to come together. It's easy for supporters to agree, and it is easy for them to form a structured coalition. So as we head to 2027, already naturally a coalition is in place. But when you look at the other side of the coin, the opposition team, and they call themselves United Opposition, but we see them fighting left, right, and center. So that is another form of coalition. It's another form of coalition being attempted. And whether it is going to be a formidable coalition, that is a story for another day.
All right.
Going by the performance in the past election, it is extremely weak, and a lot needs to be worked on.
That is a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
But then again, Peter, given that now we've established that, does it mean that it's cast on stone that our political ecosystem will never allow, quote unquote, a single party to go it alone?
It's not cast on the stone. You see, politics is zigzag, and I'm a student of zigzag politics. You know, you need to know when to take a corner and not when to take a corner. And again, politics is life, and life is seasonal. This is what I'm trying to say. You do not live yearly, you live per season. You see, for example, people who love the Bible, in Genesis 22 verse 2, Abraham is told to go and sacrifice the son. But as he moves to sacrifice the son, when it comes to verse 11, another voice comes, do not. So we are opening our ears to hear as per the season. This season could be coalitions, and then next season could be one party. So basically it's not cast on stone, and things change according to seasons. So we are open for people like us who believe in zigzag politics. We are open to know when to turn and not when to turn.
Does it apply when we have those coalitions? Usually when they get into power, they want to go it like 2 terms. But then again, towards the end of the first term, cracks start showing. What really happens?
Mainly it starts showing when the pre-election pacts were not based on serious agreements. It was like they were doing that because they were in a hurry or there was no full disclosure. And again, there's something that you cannot legislate, no matter how many pre-election pacts you form and how strong they are. You cannot legislate ambitions. Remember, when you are bringing in a political party, no matter how small it, for example, we have ODM now, they're in discussion, it's everywhere. In fact, it's flashed all over the newspapers that there is discussions between ODM and UDA. What we are not able to legislate or control, it is ambitions of key stakeholders or key players of both sides of the political divide. We are not able to, for example, should UDA and ODM settle and form a pact, and then from ODM side they produce a running mate, a running mate that is produced by ODM to a candidate or UDA as a presidential candidate on the UDA side, that does not stop the ODM candidate from hampering ambitions of becoming the leader. So what happens is that the outside voices, for example, when they form like Kenya Kwanza, when it formed the government, the outside voices of Azimio that lost, they started feeling that you are not well able. And then it came a point that the former deputy president was impeached.
Yes.
Then creating cracks and possibilities of disagreement. Then it invited outside enemies to start criticizing. And then basically what you need to understand, it is very difficult to measure the ambitions of the people you are joining coalition with. And once you join coalition with them, you see, power is sweet. Power is sweet. And you only start feeling the sweetness and the privileges of power. And you are number two. You are likely to grow horns and start thinking you can be better than you are number one. That's the problem.
But then again, there's also the aspect of parties' interest and people's interest. And there's something that, Wakili, I want you to comment on. How, if these coalitions are to achieve something, when you look at people's interests and the party's interest, where's the balance?
I think I tend to agree a lot with what Honorable Mutuku says, because whenever the convergence is weak, whenever the ideologies are weak, the convergence will be very, very fragile. So such convergence, such pacts, such coalitions will not go far. And like he mentions, politics is very seasonal. In his words, he talks of zigzag routes. It's true. Right now, we have key players. For instance, we have the coalition which power is centralized within it, which is the Kenya Kwanza. UDA is the anchor party. And the kind of bargaining power it has is different from another strategic player like ODM, who also enjoys a very different power play right now, because they are shifting from the traditional opposition position now to negotiating to be in the winning team, if we can speculate early enough. We have another team like the Jubilee, where they are going through seasons of redefining themselves before they agree if they're aligning with the government of the day or if they're in the opposition. Then we have other players where it's maybe smaller parties, like others that we won't really go into mentioning, where they're mostly putting their voice in the public frustration, but they don't appear still to have found their right footing. They're trying to find their way into merging and making coalitions that will stand the test of time. So looking at what each and every team brings and how we can define them now, if they do not have ideologies and accept the positions that they have right now, when they form coalitions, whether they win or they don't, post-election, we might see the cracks. Because if you're the anchor party, there's the bargaining that you're doing come post-election. If, for instance, there's another party that's boosting the anchor party, and it wants to negotiate for more than that after elections, then the cracks are definitely inevitable. They will definitely happen. Yes.
Then, Honorable Sosion, based on what Wakili has said, then what institutional or constitutional safeguards should guide pre-election agreements or talks so that in as much as they are achieving that goal, there's protection of democratic competition?
It's really not protection of democratic competition, but protection of the people's rights. Because where agreements are not respected and the philosophies of the coalition, underpinning the philosophy, the coalition are not respected, then it's the people who lose. Take, for example, in 2002, where Kenyans were voted as the most optimistic in the world. We elected a president who was sick, who was in a wheelchair, was not even conscious of what is happening. But we elected him with a super majority, 66%. But by 2005, that coalition was in shambles. Why? Because of the MOU. The MOU was not respected by Kibaki. Kibaki thrashed the MOU. And that MOU went with the principle of matters that were agreed. And I think the Political Parties Act has cured all this because it has guided legally on how to enter into pre-elections agreement and how to enter post-election agreement. So it has been legislated. I think the political ecosystem has got enough legal instruments to guide these coalitions when they are formed and guide them in how they work. Take, for example, the broad-based government, ODM and UDA. The party leaders of ODM and UDA signed a 10-point memorandum of understanding on which is going to guide the two parties within the broad-based arrangement, what to do, how to, and what to deal with, while at the same time inviting their members to government. I think, to me, that is a very sensible way of doing things. It brings equality on the table. It brings it sets the minimum threshold of recognition of partners, so that you are not partners in paper, but when it comes to government operations, you are excluded. Exclusion. And I think the issue of exclusion has generally been dealt with by the Constitution of Kenya, that no region, no people should be excluded. And if you look at the philosophy of leadership of President William Ruto, for example, is trying to bring in a culture of total inclusion of everybody in the country in terms of running of government, in terms of development. You cannot exclude any region. Even if they didn't vote for you, it is a right to be included both in development and even in governance. And that also is ingrained in the mind of the leader who is in authority and who is in charge of those particular groups. So I think generally we already have a legislated environment, and not just a legislated environment. We now have practiced culture that leaders have practiced. You know, once you are in leadership and you are in coalition, you must bring everyone on board, and you don't just bring people on board in a coalition for the sake as window dressing. They must be active participants in the governance processes of that coalition. And that is what people should understand as you prepare for any possible coalition. And the rights of people, if the objective is to remove somebody in office and to win power, and that becomes the philosophy of a coalition, that coalition is not going to last a day. And we have learned it in this country. So any coalition must have a cogent agenda for the people. And those agenda must be incubated from the membership. It must originate from the membership. And I think very progressive parties, what they have done in Kenya, if you look at ODM, for example, in the traditional basis.
Yes.
They conduct elections, they conduct consultative meetings with the leaders when decisions are being made. UDA, the same thing. You can see they're conducting grassroots elections, having delegates, allowing the people to participate. So parties that are clever and those who would want to maintain public trust and popular support will take their parties back to the people. The policies of a political party will form the policies of the government once a government is formed, and if they participate in forming a coalition. So what will be considered most will be the policies that are contained within the party itself. So political parties are key, not just for getting power. The policies that underpin it, the philosophies that underpin it, are very, very, very vital. Because within those policies, within those manifestos, within those agenda is contained the rights of the people. And then how do you become a social democratic party if you don't speak to the rights, social rights of people, economic rights of people? And if you look, for example, Kenya Kwanza Coalition, it developed five key pillars for implementation, that of promoting and protecting agriculture, and a lot of agenda within. Why agriculture? Because Kenyans are basically small-scale farmers. That is where they earn their income. So there's a lot of investment in that area, and it becomes a policy of the party. MSME, because small-scale business people, Mama Mboga and the rest, and it became a key issue that this is a space that must be supported. Look at the Nyota program. It's targeting small-scale youth business people, and it is becoming a big thing. It's an attraction, and you've seen the president rolling out and issuing of funds to entrepreneurs in that space.
Right.
Look at the ICT infrastructure, for example, because all of us are on ICT and we can do business using ICT. Housing is a big target. It has been rolled out. It's one of the most successful pillars of Kenya Kwanza administration. We have seen people moving from slums to decent housing. And it is not the political leaders of the party who are moving to the houses. It is the people. So the party belongs to the people. The party is the people, actually. It should not be the leadership. You can see universal health care. People who are sick are walking to facilities. They are being treated. Issues to do with education, the party is prosecuting very seriously and very thoroughly, because those are social rights of people. And you can see the general agenda of approaching the infrastructure and getting people, lifting people out of poverty. So when a party addresses such issues and people feel it, then people own the party. They own the agenda.
All right.
And people will support an institution that speaks to their basic needs, particularly social rights. And when you talk of social rights here, these are basically things to do with health, things to do with education, things to do with housing, and so forth and so forth. If a party speaks to that, then the rights of the people are protected. So coalitions are not just coalitions when you don't explain to people what you are going to do. If you don't explain, then it becomes a coalition of only grabbing power.
Wakili, we've established that coalitions do present a political strategy to parties, but are they legally binding to members and party leaders?
Yes, they're very much so legally binding, because the Constitution of Kenya of 2010 envisioned these coalitions. And coalition agreements are agreements like any other that we draw every day. And once a coalition agreement has been signed, it is deposited with the registrar of the political parties. So it is very much binding to the letter.
Yes.
And that is where we see now there is the constitutional and the institutional framework that protects these agreements that have been reduced to writing. So at the end of the day also, we see that they are not just serving the interest of the players that are signing, they are serving the interest of the Kenyans, because for a political party to be registered, it must have the signatures of the Kenyans. So it is a political party that is supposed to serve the interest of the Kenyans. So it is very much so binding.
All right.
But as like every other agreement, they can be amended. Yes.
With time.
They can always be amended. Yeah.
All right. Peter, you know, we've seen what is happening with the ODM, even given that they are in talks with the UDA. And, you know, there are those who are against the idea and those who are not for their, who are for the idea. But if a party is having problems, how do they affect its national positioning and even its bargaining power in such an arrangement?
Well, first of all, let's agree that political parties are not spouses to one or the other. To the extent that ODM, when it was in agreement with Wiper and other parties in Azimio, including Jubilee, it was good. But when it decides to join another group of parties or party, it is bad. What I said, political parties are not supposed to one or the other. So when ODM decides to leave other parties in Azimio and starts talks with UDA, the basis of our argument should not be ODM is wrong by doing this, because one of the political parties also or another political party in Azimio, maybe they were of the same thoughts, but then ODM moved with speed and started discussing. As to a political party that is as big as ODM, that there are squabbles, internal squabbles, and then they have decided to start talks with the ODA. When we have internal issues, we also have internal mechanism of doing them. And that does not mean because we are quarreling as a family, we should not make progress. We will not say that because now that we have been disagreeing on to which type of crop we are going to plant this season, we wait the season to pass as we are, then we will plant next season after we have agreed. No, we are going to plant and we continue discussing until we get to the bottom line of our discussion, which is agreeing that we are going to move forward. And these small disagreements that you are seeing, they are published all over newspapers, on the social media. They are small in the sense that the party or the party leader of ODM is the final person. Any other members speaking this way and that doesn't matter. And you know, there's something that is called sibling rivalry. Even probably in ODM, after the exiting of party leader Baba, probably there were people who felt that they were supposed to be either party leaders, or they felt that Baba was protecting the current Secretary General, and therefore they need to dislodge the current Secretary General. So they are looking for ways of making noise here and there. But bottom line, ODM and UDA, maybe they are going to join hands, agree. So what should happen is that the people who have been left in the Azimio, they should not be bothering or wasting time on whether ODM or UDA they are going to agree. In fact, if I were them, I'd be extremely happy, because a vacuum, position has been created. And because power abhors vacuum, you should now move in and fill that vacuum. Today, if I, for example, I was a party leader of Wiper, I'll be moving around this country and the world as the official opposition leader, because ODM was number one in terms of the strength. Then in the absence of ODM in Azimio, automatically Wiper is the second largest. Then I would be moving around the world and everywhere as the official opposition leader. And by that, I'll be gaining mileage and preparing, and then I grow to the point that I'll start I'm now preparing to take over the government, because I've been the official opposition leader. And while I've been the official opposition leader, this is the problems or the messes that we have been able to pick from the sitting government, that they have not been doing this way, and this is the way we are going to do it.
So you're influencing public opinion, perception about...
First of all, sorry to tell this, and I will tell it because people are listening to us. Politics is number one point of winning politics is perception. First of all, you must create perception that you have won before elections are held. If you are not creating perception that you have won, it will be too hard for you to win the real election. So perception is very key in politics.
Very important.
Yeah, because people need to perceive you as the conqueror. People need to perceive you as the solution they have been waiting for. And in any arrangement, there is this term that's called worth alternative. You must be a worth alternative to the existing. And for you to raise to that point, you must grow yourself. Handle yourself like a worth alternative. Yes.
Indeed. There's the issue of either this pact strengthening or eroding public trust in political parties and electoral competition. That is one of the issues that we shall be looking at once we come back from this short break. Stay with us.
You two should consider street performance.
We'll do it once back.
Did we spend just now? 300 yuan?
What's wrong? 120,000 shillings.
120,000?
How much did you give?
1.2 million.
Huh?
Why do you give me 1.2 million?
Why? Hey, ladies, help me out.
Keep asking him.
Brother, okay, so please, next time when you're paying, be careful, okay?
Oh, thank you, sir. You're so kind.
The fact is that the patient is my husband. What is the meaning of this, Alonzo?
This means that I came here to ask Sarah if she wants to marry me. Sarah, will you be my wife?
I've absolutely nothing against you. But please try to understand me. I need to fix my life.
Well, take it easy. I mean, any man could have a fling. I'm sure I'm not the only man that has been through this problem.
I honestly don't care what the rest of the people do.
Please. What's going on?
Please wake up. What is going on? What did you do?
Wiki hii kwenye mkulima
tunavuna French beans.
Kisha tunaangazia upanzi ama kilimo cha mboga za asili.
Kilimo sio mbaya. Kilimo iko na ina manufaa sababu ina pesa. Ukilima na ulime vile chakula inatakiwa kupandwa, weke mbolea, weke kila kitu. Kama wewe ni mwanzilishi, utaona faida na utaona utatoka bure.
Ungana nasi Jumamosi hii saa 10:30 hapa KBC Channel 1
kwa mseto kamili wa kilimo.
right, thank you for staying with us. We are watching Good Morning Kenya on KBC Channel 1. This is The Viewpoint. Now, we are talking about party politics and pre-election parts. And in the course of this conversation, there's something I need us to address. When you look at now the talks that are happening between UDA and ODM, and this I'm going to throw to Mheshimiwa Sosion. Are they when you look at those coalition pacts, pre-election pacts, do they strengthen or erode public trust, especially when it comes to political parties and electoral competition?
I think the main basis, and I think it's what has come up in this conversation, rights of the people in all these activities. Any engagement, does it codify the social and economic rights of the people? Those are the hard questions we must ask ourselves. Or does it preserve the interest of the leaders? Those are the questions we must ask. And in political parties that are organically democratic, where you allow people to discuss issues and you conceive policies that are good, the rights of the people will be protected. But in political parties where the party leader is everything and does not allow democracy within the party, that is even a party that loses members and it ends up remaining with one individual. When you see a party that is so popular, then it means the leader promotes democratic practices internally within the party. Like ODM, we have seen ODM over the years. The democratic thinking of people has been so divergent, and people wait for it to break, and it has never broken. At the end of the day, you see there is a consensus. You know, institutions does not mean people think the same. No, we don't. People think there's a lot of divergent thinking, but there are mechanisms within the organs of the party that will stabilize and arrive at agreements. And those agreements and those positions should be pro-people. So political institutions or political parties that have got internal democratic practices will always incubate and conceive policies that are pro-people. And I think, by and large, for me, I believe political parties are democratic vehicles. They are instruments of the people. They are not owned by individuals. They are institutions. And if we look, for example, because it's good to use examples, the Democratic Party in the US and the Republican Party, they exist not because of people who lead them. They exist because of the philosophies they believe in. If you look at Democratic Party, over the years, they've had different leaders, they've presented presidential candidates, they've had presidents in the White House, and there is always a tilt or a turnover to the Republicans to do the same, and Republicans are very conservative in their beliefs, and so Americans resonate between the two political parties, and not because of anything, but the beliefs and the policies and that underpins the party, and the policies of the day that you propose that I'm going to do A, B, C, D. And all those policies are flowing from the structure and philosophies of the party. So I think as Kenya now, even when you look at the coalitions that are being formed, they should outlive individuals.
But do they
For example, ODM, let's look at ODM. People believed ODM was because of a person called Raila Odinga. But if you look at the structures of the party and everything, the person of Raila Odinga had allowed the institution to be an institution. You know, the architecture of political parties or institutions, you set it in a way that they can operate beyond your life as a leader and as a person. And I think a case example, a learning case in this country is how ODM navigates its political activities going forward. And you have seen, the new party leader has said, we are commencing negotiations with UDA ahead of 2027 election.
Yes.
What does that tell you? It means they are decided. And we've seen the members of parliament supporting that decision and pronouncement by the party leader. So the party leader has proposed what is popular with the party itself. And the members of parliament have supported because they have a parliamentary group. And of course, they already have members in the broad-based. So they're not beginning from zero. They're only advancing the interest of their members ahead of elections in 2027.
Okay.
So that then by 2027, they will be able to tell their members, based on our negotiations and engagements with UDA and by large, Kenya Kwanza, these are the key issues we have agreed on, which are beneficial to our members and our supporters and the country, and therefore, let us vote a joint presidential nominee of that coalition, of which right now I can't say who is a joint presidential nominee, but it is common knowledge it will be President William Ruto. And you can see in the same breath, the UDA party has convinced an NEC to ratify and commence negotiations with ODM. And now, this commencement of negotiations is not about the leaders. It is about what members believe in. So the members of UDA, they know ahead of 2027, we are going to negotiate with that other team. They will come with their suggestions. They will come with their interest. And ODM also, the membership, they know our party is going to negotiate with UDA. And there will be give and take. And there will be a joint manifesto. It will result in a joint manifesto, joint policies that codify the interest, the benefits, the social and economic rights of the members of all the parties within their coalition. It is not an easy process to work. It's very technical.
Yes.
It must be meticulous. It must be legal, and it must speak to the benefits of members.
All right.
So that then, when people are voting, they are voting from an informed basis.
All right.
They are not just voting because of ethnic reasons or otherwise.
Wakili,
they will be voting based on issues. So these coalitions, and of course I can tell you from where I sit, the coalition of UD and ODM is one that is heavily driven by issues. It is an issue-based arrangement that benefits the people and that nobody can run away with. Even those who try to divide within the UDA or ODM will lack reason to bolt out.
Wakili, I want to get your sentiments on this, especially when it comes to perception. How do you think the voters, and especially the younger generation, now perceive such elite talks to enter into a pre-election pact, case in point, ODM, UDA?
Generally, considering the season that we are in right now, every other person is very alert, and we are looking at every sentiment, every engagement having an election undertone. There are, of course, some young people who feel that it will be okay while we are making these pre-election pacts to see some fresh faces also included in the decision-making table. That way it will inspire some more confidence. Maybe see some more fresh faces, younger faces forming part of those coalition, women being involved, which has been happening now for some time. But I would also want to speak to the conduct of the politicians towards this time. In as much as we are looking so much at alignments and realignments, we also want to focus on the higher calling that we have to ensure that the people that are the political elite class, also we get to examine them to see their capacity to actually deliver and their capacity to bring development to the Kenyans. It is important that it's an exercise that it's inclusive of the entire country, it's inclusive of even the young people. So I am hopeful that we are going to see a process that is going to be more inclusive, so that we can, it's a process that also gains public trust. Yes.
I'll ask the last question, and I'll take that as your closing remarks for all of you. From your own perspective, Peter, what direction do you see Kenya taking, or your assessment of the political landscape as at now, and the direction it will take?
That is a very good question, and this is my opinion, and in fact I'd written it down.
Yes.
That UDA, ODM, I'm minusing other political parties in the Kenya Kwanza, because like for example, we do not have ANC any longer. We have NC joint UDA. So any other party that is under Kenya Kwanza that has not joined UDA, I would wish they move with speed and join UDA so that they become part of UDA. Because once ODM and UDA unite, this is what is likely to happen, that UDA is going to produce the president. ODM is going to produce, I'm going to say it here, a prime minister. And then a running mate or deputy president may be picked from the so-called united opposition.
All right.
Let me finish. You can't be telling me to talk, then you are just stopping me now.
We are out of time.
No, we have a lot of time here.
No, I'm told we are out of time.
Yeah, okay, let me then finish then.
Yes.
Because anywhere, anybody who has a standpoint stands more chance of being picked than anybody who is neutral, who has not announced this or that. So this notion of people thinking that UDA and ODM are going to produce both the presidential candidate and the running mate, far from that. A running mate is going to be picked from the other side of the people who are out there saying they are united opposition.
All right. 30 seconds. Closing remarks.
My closing remarks. Mike, as this is a very critical period for Kenyans, the pre-election period. So mine will be essentially to advocate for peace, because we cannot ignore that there is very high political mobilization. If this should strictly be done within limits that promote peace, there should be very deliberate efforts by the political class to set good examples. Maybe it's about time we really put our feet down on the question of these leaders addressing us from the pulpit. We saw what happened last Sunday. It is very unfortunate. Let us avoid divisive talks that throw the country into tension, but rather a united country, so that we can push our country forward.
All right.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa, 20 seconds.
So the most sober and the most powerful political coalition is in the offing between ODM and Kenya Kwanza, led by UDA, and is a departure from the culture of the past,
yes,
where mobilization and coalitions has been formed on ethnic alliance. This is going to be the most inclusive political coalition ahead of 2027, driven by issues, but not new issues, the issues that exist, the pillars of strengthening the delivery and quality of education, strengthening the growth of the agricultural sector, strengthening the delivery of housing, health, and the rest. And its presidential candidate will remain President William Ruto.
I'm very confident.
And the president will continue driving the agenda of total inclusivity and economic justice for all the people of Kenya.
Thank you.
And in that way, I think that is how we'll get to the first world.
Thank you.
Once
Thank you.
we mobilize the country politically around the social and economic rights of the people.
Always a pleasure to have you on board. Always a pleasure to have you on board, Mheshimiwa Sosion, who is a former nominated MP, and Wakili Wairimu Gatasha, who is another advocate of the High Court, and Peter Mutua, who is a governance and leadership expert. This conversation ends now, but do not go too far. Vivian Ndegwa is up next to steer you with the next segment. My name is Mike Midway. Stay with us.
Mimi niko hapa kwa sababu yenu nyote. Si nimekwambia wewe ukae ndani huko?
Huwa kuna kesi huko.
Atakaa ndani miaka hii.
Na suna ka smart.
Nataka niende kwa chief. Aliniambia leo kuna kesi nyingi na yetu ndio ya mwisho.
Tafadhali naomba tuzungumze. Kwa hivyo nikikupa any prize wewe uko sawa. Hata kama milioni 1.
Afadhali nifungwe maisha.
Nikifuata sheria kisawa sawa, inabidi utoe 100k.
Kwani hali yangu ilikuwa mbaya sana?
Uje hospitali? Wewe ulijuaje kwamba huyu amekwenda Lanza alikuwa anabadilisha?
Alipigia mzungu simu akamuuliza kama alibadilisha jina. Yote ni porojo. Mimi nataka haki.
Kusahona wewe nafanya googling natembea in front of my husband hapo.
Kwani wewe kasuku?
Wewe
mimi ile heshima hata nilikuwa na kuheshimu madam, naona hakuna
hata mimi hapana kuheshimu
wewe.
Huu kwanza ndo jini mkatakamba mheshimiwa.
Mimi nilileta majini saa ngapi?
Hiyo mimi ilikuwa napenda yeye. Unajua penda nataka kutuanga. Lakini
hiyo mapenzi yako ni tofauti.
Namna gani hata wewe iko fanya googling yeye, alafu wewe napundisa yeye nafanya jigli yangu
Why did you bring temptation kwa nyumba za wenyewe?
Yes.
Hakuna temptation imeletwa.
What is so rare is the balance between what's a good decision and what's a godly decision.
Parents or like mentors or pastors, they're older than us, so they've experienced more than what we have. So when they tend to give us those advice or decisions to make.
He felt bad after because the decision isn't good in the end, because God's decisions are always good, so we should always follow them.
If it's good according to the standards of the world, then it is not necessarily godly.
I think our environment and things we interact with, like social media and friends, they most of the times...
Friday night again.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we
have to do it twice.
googling natembea in front of my husband hapo.
Kwani wewe Kasuku?
Wewe.
Mimi ile heshima hata nilikuwa na kuheshimu madam naona hakuna haja.
Hata mimi hapana kuheshimu wewe. Mwingine.
Huu kwanza ndo jini mkatakamba mheshimiwa.
Mimi nilileta majini saa ngapi?
Hiyo mimi ilikuwa napenda yeye. Unajua penda nataka kutuanga. Lakini
hiyo mapenzi yako ni tofauti.
Namna gani hata wewe iko paya googling yeye alafu wewe napundisa yeye nafanya jigli yangu
Why did you bring temptation kwa nyumba za wenyewe?
Yes.
Hakuna temptation imeletwa.
Hautaabudu yoyote wala kuelekeza ibada yoyote kwa mwingine asiyokuwa Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, bali ibada zako zote utakuwa mwenye kumwelekezea Allah. Unapokuwa na matatizo yoyote utakuwa mwenye kumkimbilia Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Masharti haya ni kuwa na imani ya neno lile. Usiseme neno ambalo huna imani nalo.
Mama mbele yenu kuwasomea somo la asma. Arnabon songora. Asadun sim anana.
وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيب.
Thank you for staying with us. Good Morning Kenya gets to continue. And right now we talk about shaping the urban future. And I am more than privileged to be having two presidents on a set today as we get to just find ways in which we can engineer a safe living space for the growing community. I have with me on my immediate right, we have George Arabu, and George Arabu is the President, Architectural Association of Kenya. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Vivian.
All right, and right next to George, we have Engineer Shama Kiteme, and he is the President, Institution of Engineers of Kenya. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right, it's a pleasure to have the both of you on set today. And it is at a time when things are not looking so good, matters, buildings, you know, and all of that, specifically in Nairobi. I am sure that you have seen and you know of the collapsed buildings. Or the collapsing buildings, because it's not just one, there have been two buildings so far, and we are going to be getting into that just to try and see where exactly is the problem and where does the problem begin exactly. But before we get into that bit of our conversation, when we talk about shaping the urban future and looking at ways in which we can engineer a safe living space for our communities, how do you define a safe living space? Let me begin with you, yeah.
Right. Thank you, Vivian, once again, and good morning, Kenya. Well, it's a safe living space is one that is experienced. You know, it cannot be perceived by visual, by one, factor of just visual. And unfortunately, when it comes to construction, for example, we tend to focus more on visual appeal. So does the building look good? Is it painted? Does it look fancy? But we forget that it's about the experience. So a safe living space is whereby a family can be raised, for example, kids can play. So we look at the vulnerable. The aged people can move around easily, you know, between the various spaces where you are living, where you are working, and where you are recreating, where you meet people. A safe living space is where community is fostered. The sense of community that you are not cut off from people. For example, you have common spaces like what you call the courtyards, the plazas. If you look back into how Africans used to build their homesteads, for example, you have houses surrounding a central space. If you scale that up to urban areas, then you are looking at that courtyard as a space where people like Uhuru Park, for example, okay? Like the estates, the old estates that were done with those central courts. where kids play. And then now, of course, you go into the house. How is that house planned? Can you be able to do the activities that you're supposed to be doing? The normal activities like cooking, living, sleeping, and meeting your family. And then, is that space connected to nature in such a way that it is healthy? Because if you have a house, a building, okay, so I want to differentiate between our home and a structure called a building. Okay. A home is a space which you can raise a family and do the normal things that a human being needs. A building is a structure. It could be a go down which has no lights, which is not comfortable, which is cold. Is the temperature normal? There's something called thermal comfort, things to do with the daylight, because we need light as human beings. So all these are aspects that we need to factor in to consider what is a safe living space. And it can scale right from the house to the street level and the citywide scope. Yeah.
All right. Engineer Kiteme, what's your your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think the architect has done a very good intro. Let me start by saying good morning, all Kenyans and those watching us. A safe living place has various aspects, like already alluded to. And I think first, as a structural engineer, I should not have a situation whereby it is subject to collapse because of compromise in terms of the structural integrity. So as an engineer, I will be very careful to make sure that the structural integrity of the living space is guaranteed. And that means under the normal occupancy and loads and subject to the reasonable environmental factors like wind, earthquake, etc., that space should not collapse in a catastrophic manner and cause harm, death, etc. And so that would, of importance for me, constitute a safe living space. But I already alluded to, I had a colleague of mine who worked somewhere, and because of the working conditions, his eyesight was affected. He started wearing specs. Like a permanent disability was inflicted on him because of the living space that he was subjected to. And therefore, for me, lighting is also an important aspect. And I'm saying so because then electrical engineers, while structural engineers are supposed to guarantee structural integrity, electrical engineers come into place to make sure that then the lighting, the lumens, the lux, the amount of lux that we are dealing with is within acceptable standards, and it will not inflict harm to the occupants. The other very critical elements is, of course, the ventilation. Ventilation is a space where mechanical engineers are involved in. And you want to think about the space you're dealing with. If it's a hospital situation, for example, sometimes we have forced ventilation, where we have positive or negative pressure, for example. And therefore, mechanical engineers would be involved in making sure that heating, ventilation, and air conditioning are factors that you consider in the living space. Now, we have to consider environmental conditions, like alluded to, and where environmental conditions don't provide conducive atmosphere for a safe living space, then as professionals, we come in to force the conditions that are safe for living. And therefore, all those aspects play to make sure that whether you're talking about structurally safe, whether you're talking about lighting, we're talking about ventilation, we even talk about waste management. And proper waste management will actually define if you're dealing with a safe living space or not, because by virtue of us living, we generate waste. And therefore there must be a proper way to manage the waste, whether it is solid waste or liquid waste, which is wastewater, for example, so that we handle it properly to make sure that we have a safe living space. And living means healthy. There are two terms that we talk about. One is a building that will subject you to unhealthy living conditions and you can fall sick, or a building that will be health enhancing. And so safe living is a big conversation that we grapple with as professionals in built environment.
Yeah, and just from, what both of you have mentioned, it requires a lot. I mean, I didn't even think about lighting, but it's something that, also came up. So it requires a lot. Before we get, deeper into that bit of safe living, I want us to address the elephant in the room, which is also part of of what we are talking about today. That is the building collapses. And I'm sure this is a question that many Kenyans are asking. Where are we going wrong? Where is the problem? Is the problem in poor designing? Is it in poor construction? Is it in, just poor, when it comes to supervision? We have work supervision, in this nation. Where exactly is the problem? Is it a failure in regulation? Is it a systemic problem? Where is the problem?
Well, Vivian, it's an interesting situation we are in, because I feel like we know where the problem is. Kenyans know where the problem is. We just don't want to talk about it. We also know where the solution are, what the solution is. Let me broaden the topic a little bit, and I will leave the engineer to talk about more of the structural issues, especially when it comes to collapse of buildings. We have systemic issues that this collapse is just one small aspect of it. So we have a situation where majority of what we are building is wrong. And just because it's standing doesn't mean that that building is good or safe. We don't have a way of enforcing existing regulations. We lack capacity in terms of implementation. And even the government itself, and in this case we are talking about the county governments, because they are the ones who are in charge of urban planning and development control, because that's a devolved function, are not able, let me put it this way, there is no will. Let's start with the will. I don't think there's a will, and they also don't have capacity. Most counties give very little budget to this development control process. Who is monitoring what's going on? Okay, so this statistic is that the statistics are there. The fact of the matter is that majority of Kenyans don't even think they need professionals. Majority of Kenyans want to build by themselves, for themselves, and they consider it as a cost-cutting measure. But it's a risky one. Okay, the risk is that you are investing a lot of money, so you are risking losing that money, but at the same time you are risking developing something that is not quality. So you're going to risk the lives of the people that you are building for. In Nairobi, for example, and I think nationwide, the ratio of developers or the landlords to the tenants, we are talking about, for every 10 buildings, only one of them could be the owner of the building living in it. In Nairobi, about 8% or less are the people who are landlords. And developers, the people who are building, investing, making decisions on how we are building and what should be built, is a paltry less than 1% of Kenyans. Which means the average Kenyan is not on the table of deciding what is being built. If you move into a house and you don't even know how it was done, because ideally you're supposed to be given information, like what engineer was mentioning here earlier. Electrical, if you look at the utilities, electrical lines, the service lines like water or waste, you can't see that. But the ideal situation is that you know where they are, because there's information about that. Like when you buy a car, you get a manual. You can go and Google for the engine of a particular car, and you can say this car is like this.
Yes.
But you're living in a house where you could be trying to nail a photo of your family onto the wall, and then you hit an electric conduit and get electrocuted. Why? Because you don't know. So the genesis of all this is that we are used to building irregularly. We are used to building without input from professionals. And then we are not assured of the quality of materials that we are using, because someone is not doing their job, or they are not capacitated enough to do the right job.
Yeah, and Engineer Kiteme, I would love for you to also weigh in on that. You know, we were speaking earlier and you mentioned that since 1990, we've had 100 building collapses in the country. Why is this something that is recurrent? It keeps coming year in, year out. Where are we missing, you know, where are the gaps in this?
Vivian, let me start by really passing my condolences on the lives lost. For the last 2 weeks, we have lost lives. Life is precious, and it saddens me that we have lost lives in building collapses. And so my condolences. And what pains more is because from where we sit as professionals in built environment, these are preventable. But we have started by quoting statistics. It is true, from 90s we have had over 100 buildings collapsing. And not just collapsing, we have lost lives, over 200 of the people dead. And not only just that, we have also lost investments. And it is running over 3 billion investments or lost. And so the question is, just like you've asked, what is the cause? Studies have been done, and overall, you can summarize them into poor workmanship. You can also see an element of substandard materials, construction materials. We also see an element of poor structural design, and we have also seen maintenance issues where the maintenance is not happening, and also we have elements of non-compliance with set regulations to make sure that buildings are safe. Now, there are many causes and all that, but they are largely systemic. And I will tell you, those studies have also recommended remedies. One of the remedy recommended has been engage accredited checkers, for example, to make sure every stage there is peer review, there is a proof checking to make sure that we are good to proceed to the next stage. There is a proposal to involve, for example, inspectors. And this should come from the county, because planning is a devolved function, as alluded by President Arabu. Counties are very vital and critical. While the developers are supposed to retain professionals, in countries where this menace has been stemmed, there is the professionals who ascertain they are happy with the work that has been done, for example, with the arrangement of steel and all that before casting has been allowed. But then there's also inspection that comes from the county, for example, or a national entity that comes to ascertain, yes, the excavation is safe, you can now cast. The arrangement of steel is okay, now you can cast. So inspections happen, and studies have recommended engagement of inspectors. But what have we seen? We have seen an element whereby there is a lot of impunity from developers. They say, he who pays a piper calls the tune. They have the money, and therefore they will make a decision whether to retain a professional or not. And they even make a decision whether to fire this professional and get another one at whim. So what I'm saying is that if we had to address this menace, the developer must be held accountable. No one has been put behind jail for over 100 buildings collapsing in this country from 1990s. So we are literally letting everyone go scot-free. No one is being held accountable. But the other important thing, and my colleague president has mentioned it, have professionals. Professionals are trained. The architect, the structural engineer, the mechanical engineer, the electrical engineer, the QS, the planner, they are trained to make sure that they can actually be involved in a process that produces safe structures that are not collapsing, and especially structural engineers. You need the structural engineer to do the calculations. We need to have geotechnical investigations done to determine the soil-bearing capacity so that they can design the foundations so that your building does not collapse. And therefore, involvement of professionals and, enhancing the inspection capacity in counties becomes very critical. The problem we are seeing is that the development that we submit to counties for approval, they are looking at as a revenue generation aspect, not as a building safety aspect, where they are supposed to be involved to make sure the buildings that come after the approval, they are safe. And that's something we must emphasize. But critically also involve, for example, mechanical engineers so that you have a safe building, drainage and all that. You involve electrical engineers, for example, so that we're talking about safety in terms of power and all that, because we're living in power. So there are systemic issues. We know the causes because we have studied them. We have recommendations for how to overcome this. What we know is that enforcement is lacking.
And I want to actually pick on that. No one is being held accountable. And I feel like that is where the biggest problem is at, because that, okay, we saw that building collapsing. No one was brought to book for the collapsing of it. And from the stages you've just mentioned that need to take place, the procedure before a construction, comes to be, I am sure there are different, approvals, and people are known. You definitely know who's the developer of this project. You have to know who approved this construction, because I'm sure you need to do some signing, no? So why is it that we never get anyone, brought to book when we have building collapses? Is it that it just disappears like thin air? It's like you can't trace anyone, and I'm sure it's all traceable.
Yes, I think, Vivian, we are in a very strange situation, and I like using this analogy that imagine a situation where majority of Kenyans went to witch doctors to be treated, and we assume it's normal. We are happy with that. That is actually the situation with construction. That it is okay to do things irregularly. It's okay to do bad construction. You will be shocked the number of people who, let's say if you come from a developed country, or maybe if people who have traveled out, one of the things they realize, the difference is the quality of buildings, the quality of construction. It's not about cost. It's not about, because if you are doing a stone building, whether you are doing a house in Kileleshwa or you are doing a house in Kibera using stone, the price is the same. The stone is the same, cement is the same. The only difference might be that maybe someone doing it in Kileleshwa is appealing to some foreigner and they are able to do something different. Or they are appealing to some Kenyan who has a bigger pocket, so they are able to do something that looks nice. But the cost is the same. Now, the issues of record keeping is very important. We don't have good records. Like I said earlier, you build a house, you can't even tell where the sewer line is going. Okay, there's a toilet blockage, the fundi can't come and block it easily, or someone has to demolish the house to find out where, something. Like, remember it's probably a long time ago in the 90s when Nakumatt downtown caught fire, and they couldn't get the source of the fire. They were speculating, it came from here, I don't know where, stuff like that. And they couldn't even put it out in good time, for example. So we are just living blind in our space. We are building blindly, and everything is what engineer said, that the developer, the builders, the landlord, the people who have the money, because every project starts with money. Okay, so if I have money, I want to go and build, and I'm the one making the decisions. And what do? Because I have the money, I think I know everything. So I go and look for my relative who's idling at home. I tell him, I want you to come and become the fundi here. Okay? I go and look for the hardware. A lot of Kenyans buy chumas from the hardware. They go to the hardware guy and they tell them, I want to build a 2-story house, chuma gani ndatumia. Okay? So instead of going to a doctor to get a diagnostic and then get a prescription, then go to the pharmacy to buy the medicine, we are going straight to the pharmacy and saying, I have a stomach problem, what do I need? So the guy who's selling the pharmacy gives it. That's exactly what's happening in the construction sector. So one, the process is complex. Let me put it this way. Even if you are building a simple house, even a thatched hut, the process of going through that is complex. Even where you have consultants, things can go wrong. That is the reality. The issue, the difference comes in when you don't involve professionals, the risk of things going wrong increases tenfold. So one, we have a problem with record keeping. So the county doesn't even know what is being built. Okay? They are collecting money, as engineer is saying. So that amount of money, which is supposed to go towards ensuring safety, inspections happen, quality control from material. Like even where they're being mined, the person who's mining the stones, okay? The muchanga that is being brought, because remember sand, it's not just sand. You can't just pick any sand and use. There's specific sand. There's a level of grit, the sizes of the particles that only an engineer can tell when it's brought on site. Now, if you skip all that, you are literally compounding the problem. And if by a miracle the house remains standing, it remains that, a miracle. But scientifically, because it's a complex process, you need to monitor and evaluate and report. When construction is going on, there are meetings that go on. There is inspection. So an architect will go to site or an engineer will go to site and give a site inspection notes or instruction. So in some cases, things can also go wrong. For example, when you are pouring the concrete, a slight difference can be costly. Maybe you end up with more concrete than you need or less. When you're doing the mixing, or you're using the wrong paint. You know, there's something called lead in paint. Most people don't know. There's hundreds of paint companies in this country. Lead, which has been banned globally, Kenya is one of the signatories to this. A couple of years ago, we started a very serious campaign on manufacturers or importers of paint should not have lead. Why? Because lead is poisonous, and it's usually more, especially for kids. But because there are very many paint companies, and because we are price conscious, so every time you go and buy paint, you're saying which is the cheapest. And then you don't look at the ingredients. So all these are compounding, and then there's no one checking, and then there's no record. So we can't fall back and say, what caused the sunbeam collapse? Can we learn from that or whatever? So we don't have all this. And then we are groping blindly towards an urban future where we are compounding the building. By 2050, every building we need by then is not been built yet. The population of Nairobi doubling means that we are yet to build twice as many buildings are exiting Nairobi. So if we are not learning from what we have done wrong, we are going to double the problem.
Yeah, because nothing changes. If
nothing changes. So how do we even get who is liable? So we need to go back and say, we implement the laws we have, and we use the right people, and then we enforce the issues of inspection, we enforce the issues of being compliant, and to the point whereby it should become criminal not to have these records. Lastly, let's just mention on this particular one that Nairobi is looking at regularizing the irregular construction. So what does regularizing look like? You need to do the checks and look back and say, what can be fixed? So we do retrofitting. So if a building has a structural issue, we structurally enforce it. If it has lead in paint, we remove it. If it has no daylight, we insist by increasing the then you regularize. But I am afraid it may just be tupatia pesa, approval, move on. That is where the challenge is.
Wow. Are the current building codes sufficient, engineer?
Wow. I think I will want to respond to your question.
Okay.
But perhaps also start where he has left.
Okay.
You see, what we do when involved in construction sector is actually a science. It is not voodoo. It is science. And you don't mess with science. It punishes you. If you do not design the structure to carry certain type of a load, and you subject that structure to that load, it will collapse. And the collapse is catastrophic. It is going to cost life. Yeah. So what we do is science. You can't replace that. And that then means the necessity of having professionals, everyone intending to do any development, they must not think an alternative to that. Let me tell you, even my small development, I involve the architect. I'm a structural engineer. I want the electrical engineer, I want the mechanical engineer, however small it is, because these are people spend years in the university, spend years of experience and all that. They see a problem from a distance, because that is area of specialty. So it actually saves you money to involve professionals. You know, when you have problems in court, the court, the bar and the bench, you can only have an advocate either side. And so we don't have room to negotiate. We have to go to an advocate. When you are going to the hospital, you're willing to engage the most expensive clinician because you don't want to compromise with your health.
Yeah.
Now, where we live, the spaces we live, they are as important. Why do you want to live in a space where you do not have a professional who can guarantee safety of where you're staying? But the other thing, and most critically, a very big problem we have, and that is where he left his statement, is corruption. Where we want to cut corners and not get the right approvals, for example. And even some authorities in counties, they are not willing to do due diligence and making sure that the approval process adds value because they are willing to receive bribes and get compromised. Some of the recent collapses, and we are waiting for reports, we see them. But already what we can see in public raises so many questions. Yeah. For example, you need to go to the county to get approval for architectural and structural and stuff like that. Then you see a development proceeding without structural approval, for example. That development has been cleared by the county. It has a compliance certificate from the National Construction Authority. How on earth did that happen? And if there are inspections happening, what are you inspecting? Are you establishing that the person on record as a structural engineer is a structural engineer that is involved? When you go to the site, are you able to check the records? Are there site meetings? Have you done material tests, steel, concrete, cement? Because, like I alluded, one of the costs is substandard materials. We have also seen substandard cement in the industry, substandard steel in the industry. What are these inspections being done? Or are we just having inspectors passing by and they are given money and they give okay? So corruption is also really a big menace.
Yeah.
But I think you asked about
the codes. Are they sufficient?
The codes.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I was involved in the committee that developed the Building Code 2024. That code is excellent.
Okay.
We did comparative studies from other countries, Australia, Malaysia. We checked other codes, and I was one of the experts involved in developing the Building Code 2024. It is super. It has provisions that guide what kinds of checks needs to be done. The developer has to comply with the requirement of Clause 5. The responsibility is spelled out clearly. There are specifications for design for the living spaces, what you need to design architecturally, what you need to design so that the structure is safe, the structural standards, design standards are provided for.
Yeah.
There are provisions for mechanical aspects, electrical aspects for the design for the building. There are provisions for health, safety, and environment, quality assurance, environmental design, and green buildings. The building code we have 2024, which I was part of experts preparing, is excellent. The question is compliance. The question is enforcement. And therefore, if we are to fix this problem, we have first of all to accept we have allowed a situation which is eating us. The buildings are collapsing. We are dying through these processes. We are compromising construction material, steel, cement. We are not retaining professionals to make sure that the construction is safe. This now becomes part of our culture of allowing what is unacceptable. And I want to allude to Mishuki. When he came to be the cabinet minister and you saw what he was able to do.
The reform.
He did not bring in new things.
Yeah.
He just came, provided the required leadership. The problem we have in the industry is the leadership, enforcement. Can we have someone put their foot on the ground and say, the madness must stop? Provide leadership. John Maxwell says, everything rises and falls on leadership. We have failure of leadership. And we have seen, not just here, in Mombasa the other day, we have the Leaning Tower of Mombasa, which was blown up by the military.
Yes.
The report that we received from the governor indicated that 61% of the approvals done in that Mombasa County are done by only 3 engineers. 61%. 75% of approvals done, they're only done by 5 architects. Now, when I checked back a reference year like 2024, how many buildings were approved in Mombasa? There were about 277. So if you now extrapolate that, you can see one professional is responsible for how many buildings. Can they supervise them? Not possible. What does that tell you? There is a big problem of credentials buying. Yeah. There is a big problem of failure by the regulators to enforce. Where I was, for example, the body responsible to check that the architects involved, the engineers response and all that, and of course the contractors, the regulators. What is their role in this mess you're seeing? So the problem we're having is enforcement, and we need leadership to address this mess.
All right, from that point, we take a break and then we get back to continue with this conversation that is really needed. Let's take a break.
Mimi niko hapa kwa sababu yenu nyote. Si nimekwambia wewe ukae ndani huko?
Huwa kuna kesi huko.
Atakaa ndani miaka hii.
Na suna ka smart.
Nataka niende kwa chief. Aliniambia leo kuna kesi nyingi na yetu ndio ya mwisho.
Tafadhali naomba tuzungumze. Kwa hivyo nikikupa any prize wewe uko sawa. Hata kama milioni 1.
Afadhali nifungwe maisha.
Nikifuata sheria kisawa sawa, inabidi utoe 100k.
Kwani hali yangu ilikuwa mbaya sana? Uje hospitali?
Wewe ulijuaje kwamba huyu amekwenda Lanza alikuwa anabadilisha?
Alipigia mzungu simu akamuuliza kama alibadilisha jina. Yote ni porojo. Mimi nataka haki.
Kusahona wewe nafanya googling natembea in front of my husband hapo.
Kwani wewe kasuku?
Wewe
mimi ile heshima hata nilikuwa na kuheshimu madam, naona hakuna haja.
Hata mimi hapana kuheshimu
wewe.
Huu kwanza ndo jini mkatakamba mheshimiwa.
Mimi
unaona?
Nilileta machini saa ngapi?
Hiyo mimi ilikuwa napenda yeye. Unajua penda nataka kutuanga. Lakini
hiyo mapenzi yako ni tofauti.
Namna gani hata wewe iko paya googling yeye, alafu wewe napundisa yeye nafanya jigli yangu
Why did you bring temptation kwa nyumba za wenyewe?
Yes.
Hakuna temptation imeletwa.
BBC West,
So where is the balance between what's a good decision and what's a godly decision?
Parents or like mentors or pastors, they're older than us, so they've experienced more than what we have. So when they tend to give us those advice or decisions to make,
He felt bad after because the decision isn't good in the end. Because God's decisions are always good, so we should always follow them.
If it's good according to the standards of the world, then it is not necessarily godly.
I think our environment and things we interact with, like social media and friends, they most of the times influence the kind of decisions that we make.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. We are having a conversation on engineering a safe space for our growing community. And before we took that break, one thing is coming out very evidently, that the problem is systemic. We have a huge systemic failure, you know, and I don't know how that can change. Maybe would you say we need reforms, you know, regulatory reforms? Do we need to put policies in place that would actually impact on improving safety, especially when it comes to construction and our buildings? Is that what needs to be done now, or what way forward?
Vivian, allow me to say this. A lot of people use new reforms as a scapegoat, as an excuse. Let me put it to an extent that it's not the problem. Engineer actually mentioned already. Yeah. They are not perfect. They are good laws. In fact, I can tell you a lot of our neighbors in the region, for example, implement ideas from Kenya very well. I'll tell you, for example, development control. There's a system, it's called e-permitting. It's an online system which AAK worked with IFC about 10 years ago. To bring forth, and the idea was that you need to reduce corruption. I mean, we're trying to minimize the human hand in these very sensitive matters, and of course, just to make it more, should I say, formal, that if you are reading records, you don't bring documents. Like when you go to approval, you're supposed to take land search, your title. You're supposed to take so many documents, you know, to show that the land is yours and you are legitimately building on it. But with technology, you can have all these things being referenced. So you have a database somewhere in the Ministry of Lands, and then it's referenced the department that requires the county to be able to check that. So that was really, and it's efficient and safe to use. Now, what happens is you have a situation where some counties set up the system and then someone goes and switches it off. You have somewhere where it is launched, pump and color, oh, we are now online. Then engineer goes to submit a drawing. It's not going through. You've got the system where, oh, the service provider has not been paid. So they switch off the count, and the count is like, what's the big deal? You know, manual system, and they are proud of it, saying efficiency. They have actually written there efficient, then they are showing the manual process. We are in a stage where we are passing the equivalent or more of our entire wealth of the country through M-Pesa, and it has issues, and we are okay with it because we are constantly improving it. I believe Safaricom is constantly improving it, and they have issues. And yet we trust the system so much. But when it comes to something as development control, which is way more complex, that would benefit from this system, we say, oh, okay, immediately we revert back to the manual. Now, you asked about, do we really need new systems, I mean, new policies and systems? No, we don't. In fact, I can tell you that is the reason that it is being used not to do the right thing. Can we enforce the current ones? So the 2024 building code, which has taken so long because it kept being postponed in terms of development, and I congratulate engineer because that's one of the big milestones that we've done in the construction sector. Okay. But if you look back to the old code, majority of Kenyans were not complying to it. There was a provision, for example, of the maximum height of perimeter walls. Literally no one was following it. There was a lot of provisions on how the process, because the building code even tells the processes on how certain things can be handled on site, purely using, dealing with issues of safety, for example. The building code also gives a guideline, because even me and the engineer here use it to reference. We don't know everything that is in the building code. Okay, so now, what gives a fundi somewhere the wisdom to do the things without referencing anywhere? If I have to reference, okay? So the challenge is that the existing laws are good enough. Yeah. The problem is issues of leadership, and it cuts across from the county, where they're supposed to be more invested in development control. The county needs to budget more for this process of urbanization. Urbanization is the only thing that is happening right now. We are looking at the majority of Nairobians, of Kenyans, will be living in urban centers. I would not be surprised by the year 2050, every county headquarters will be a city. Now, if we don't want, because this is not something, it's like a foundation. If you don't do the right foundation right now, in 2050, what will you be doing? Will we be are we ready to incur the cost of demolishing parts of the city to make them better? No, so I think right now what we need is the right leadership that starts saying, we have a building code. We have, even themselves, they have these county integrated development plans. They're not following them. We have the national spatial plans, for example. What does it say? And how does it affect the spaces that we are building? So once we comply with that, then we can find what are the gaps. And stop this business of saying that if it can work in Kigali, it can work in Kenya. But the flip is true, literally. Rwanda took the system, they benchmarked in Kenya of e-permitting. And theirs is so efficient, you can get approval within a matter of days. Okay. In Kenya, we are talking about months, weeks, and if you are lucky, never. If you are very unlucky, never. Yeah.
Engineer Shama, you're also of the idea, because I saw you nodding as President Arabu was speaking. You're also of the same idea that we don't need any more, and we don't need any regulatory reforms.
Yeah, just to be fair, a lot of work has been done in this space in terms of developing instruments, and we have sufficient. What I know we lack is leadership. Okay. And I believe we need to look entirely into our value system. You know, that which causes me to compromise a basic thing like approval process, which ends up killing people. Let's ask ourselves about our value systems. For me, now I know corruption is killing us literally. Dramatically, when buildings are collapsing because corruption has been involved, but also slowly because we are now compromising supplies in hospitals, and those are killing us. We are allowing wrong designs in our roads, and we are having accidents, and we are killing ourselves. Inspection, probably you're supposed to do the proper inspection for vehicles and ensure proper checks so that when this thing moves, it is safe, and it is killing us. Because we literally can buy anything. And therefore, we just need as a country to wake up and agree. How much can we tolerate? And then become like citizen watching. Whenever there's a problem, we can pick it up, point it out, because this, if it is not affecting me now, it will affect me later. My brother, my relative will die in that building that I'm seeing being done in a manner that is compromising. We have developed very many instruments, and I will tell you, even the Institution of Engineers of Kenya has developed a site inspection handbook. Yeah. This site inspection handbook works in line with the existing laws. We do not need to invent any law. We have Physical and Land Use Planning Act, which anchors the approval process. We have the National Construction Authority, under which National Building Code is anchored. What we did, working together with the Council of Governors and National Construction Authority, we developed a tool that can be used in a construction site to do the necessary checks. And these checks include architectural, include structural, geotechnical, mechanical, electrical, and environmental, health, safety, and environment, and general quality assurance. So we're saying the instruments available are sufficient. They are sufficient. What we are lacking is enforcement, compliance, and perhaps awareness that the malaise of corruption is now literally killing us and finishing us. Because, look, if we have to stop this thing, someone has to say, this is affecting all of us. Over 200 lives lost, over 3 billion lost in investments. You know, this has to stop at some point. Yeah. And then when it stops, we will come and realize we were actually taking ourselves down deliberately. All that has been work, I can guarantee, Vivian, is sufficient to guarantee a safe built environment in this country.
So the problem is just the implementation. Everything has been put in place, you know, properly.
And enforcement.
And enforcements. Wow, I wonder how far away from getting to that point we are. But hopefully things are going to change. You talked about the handbook. So who needs the handbook?
This site inspection handbook, it is needed by the contractor on site, because they will check and make sure their work they are doing is safe. It complies with the building code. It complies with the Physical and Land Use Planning Act. It complies with, because the design, structural design, has to comply with some standards, the mechanical, electrical design, and all that. So the contractor needs it. But also, the counties who carry out inspections, they need it. Equally important, and that's why we worked with Council of Governors, but also important the National Construction Authority, because it carries out inspections. They need it. And I can tell you, this does not do anything new. It just brings what we have in the existing laws and make sure that it is put in a form of checklist.
Yeah.
When you go through it, then you make sure that your building complies. The other important thing, it makes sure the person carrying out the inspection has to own it. So the architect who is registered, licensed, experienced, and qualified will sign. The structural engineer who is registered, licensed, experienced, and qualified will sign. The mechanical engineer, the electrical engineer, and therefore you have a way of holding someone accountable for the works that are happening on site. And therefore it's just an additional effort saying, we have all the laws. Can we find a way of being on site and making sure there's compliance? And then it becomes part of the record for that building. Because remember, after construction, you need a certificate of occupation for the building to be put in use. Certificate of occupation, prima facie, should be evidence that the building complied with all the stages. The professionals were involved. The necessary checks for materials were done. Everything was done. And therefore, when you see the certificate of occupation, as you move into that building, it's a safe building. And therefore, this is a process that as Institution of Engineers of Kenya, we have just tried to make it easy for Kenyans, for everyone involved in the construction sector.
All right. Is there a way, or is there something that an ordinary citizen can be able to look out for, you know, in order for them to know whether a building is safe or not? Can I just get into a building and know, is this safe or not? Is there a way? Is there something I can be looking out for as an ordinary citizen?
Vivian, I think that's an important question, and perhaps that what we should have all discussed. The only thing we should have discussed, and engineer mentioned the issue of information. You know, where AAK is having a lot of discussions with the resident associations to empower them with information in terms of what to do and what to look out for. And at the same time, we have a platform called Mulika Mujengo, which is for reporting, you know, what you see. You know, it doesn't have to be accurate, but you can see something is wrong. So it mentions some of the things that you can see, and you're able to report and say, this is going on. And I would say that not everything is obvious. In most construction, I'm sure if the Kenyans who have built, their fundis always have this term, if you see something wrong, they'll tell you, don't worry, tutafunika na plaster. Because we are used not to be so refined with the process that we will cover mistakes. But just to remember, to remind people that it's a cost. Every time you have to fix that mistake, it's a cost. So we also have at AAK something called Healthy Homes Guidelines and Checklist, where we have about 15 pillars. They are basic things, and we've spoken quite a bit to some of them. Something, for example, like daylight. If you have to put on light in your house or in a room during the day, that is already a red flag. Because daylight is important for our health. It is not. It's not a luxury, okay? Good lighting, electrical lighting is good for at night or during those overcast days, but you need daylight. If you cannot get cross ventilation, fresh air into a space, okay, if it's feeling like it's musty, you can just smell stale air. Maybe in the morning when you wake up and you open the windows, even when you open the windows, it's still not feeling, you can't smell fresh air. That is already a red flag right there. You need to check out for thermal comfort. Thermal comfort is where, does it always feel maybe too cold constantly? You know, there's some houses where you go in, even in a hot sun, and then you feel like you get at the fridge, okay? And then it's uncomfortably cold even at night. So this is what I'm calling thermal comfort. Of course, in some cases, it could be maybe the building is made out of poor quality materials. Like maybe someone has just used mabati in a hot space, and then it's too hot. So it can be too hot or too cold. There is a regular temperature, an average temperature that a human being thrives. I mean, if you go to most public schools in Kenya right now, in some hot areas, it's difficult for kids to concentrate because it's mabati roof, and then it's very hot, and then the kids can't concentrate. So your productivity is lowered. So, and all this applies for offices and even buildings. If people are always getting migraines, I know of a case where the basement of a building was built such that the fumes from the car park were coming into the office spaces, and most people were complaining in that office of headaches, and a lot of times they were off. And when an environmental design consultant was invited, they actually identified the problem. Because what they had done is that there was some ventilation at the roof, and they had blocked them because someone thought they didn't want it to get cold and all those weird things. So the hot air that was building up in the space wasn't escaping. And it was a very simple solution. So the science behind what we call building the buildings is simple, but it has to be identified. So these are some of the things, and if the public can go to our website, check out that Healthy Homes Guidelines pillars. We have outlined them. But also we have said that people need to be able to be empowered to know what a good building is, what a good space is, what the processes are, how to look out for good materials. And sometimes it becomes complex that you need an expert. But the general information that we are giving is that don't look at the superficial things. If a real estate agent shows you to a room and the first thing they do is switch on the lights, that should be a red flag. You should walk into a space, and if it's during the day, you don't need to switch on the lights for you to appreciate the space.
There's something, President Arabu, you had mentioned earlier, and I would also like Engineer Shama to weigh in on that. It's on the same thing you've just concluded on. And it's on, you mentioned that, when someone is buying a car, there's information about the car. Everything you need to know about this car, its history, it's all there. laid down. So is there something we can do for us to get to a point when, or to a point where, when, as I'm going around looking at houses, I can be able to have information of this house? And if it's information, what kind of information should I get of the house?
Wow. Very important question you've asked, Vivian, to be honest. When you were issuing our statement as built environment professionals, we came together, all of us, and issued a statement. One of the things that we have emphasized collectively is a national platform or a system that there is openness of sharing information about buildings. We feel strongly about that because, like you already alluded, you can go to NTSA and trace your car history through the logbooks. Buildings are equally vital. And at one point, we decided to look for a place to stay. And we decided to move around to look for places to stay. I'm telling you, my family, we searched. Because I now know, as an expert in the field, I know a sick building where there is no ventilation. It is always damp. Lighting, natural lighting is not there and all that. And I can tell you we searched. Until, because we just wanted to move from one place to another. Where we were, the building had very nice ventilation, cross ventilation, very nice natural lighting. It was done by a professional. I'm telling you we searched. We only got one building out of very many that we searched. And then we decided not to move until we built ours, which met the specifications that we want. Because we appreciate the need not to subject kids to unhealthy living conditions because of lighting, ventilation, stuff like that. And therefore, the question of having information available about that building is necessary. We advocate for it. And that is why the electronic systems become necessary. In fact, we should have a register for all buildings available, where you can check, that building involve professionals? Did that building get certificate of occupation? Therefore, if it got certificate of occupation, you know it is compliant and all that. But the other thing, and I need to emphasize to Kenyans, if you have any doubt, we expect, as experts we are available, we can carry audit. We also have ISK, it has professionals in that sector. We can carry an audit. I can do a structural audit for your building and ascertain. I can do non-destructive tests and ascertain whether your building is safe or not, based on the occupancy and the load that is going to be subjected to. And if you doubt, even environmentally, we have experts in environmental design. They can come and check. We have architects. We have mechanical engineers, electrical engineers. They can check all aspects if you have any doubt. And so, most critical is the fact that you are satisfied that as you move into that building, it is safe for occupation. And I've done so many structural audits. Someone wants to buy a building, they tell me, Mr. Engineer, Bon Engineer, is this building safe for me? So I come in, I carry structural investigations, and I produce structural integrity report and stuff like that. Now, telltale signs, already, in addition to what my colleague President has alluded, if you have been staying in a building and all of a sudden, building your stage starts developing cracks, it tells you something is happening, and serious cracks. If you've been staying in a building and all of a sudden the doors could open properly and now they start opening with difficulty, it tells you there are some movements in that building and you need to know what is happening. For example, the door was opening well, now it is opening with difficulty and all that. Windows, for example. So there are telltale signs you can tell. Ordinarily, a building should settle, and settling means after it has been built, within a cycle of a year, it should settle. So any crack subsequent to that, they're telling you some additional movements are happening. And therefore, there are all those manner of checks you should have. But when in doubt, engage a building professional, a structural engineer, an architect, mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, to actually carry out tests. Because we can do tests, non-destructive tests, and if the building is okay, we give you a clean bill of health. If there are enhancements that needs to be done for it to be safe, we'll also recommend you, and so that you can do them. And therefore, yes, there are all those manner of things that we are dealing with, and like I alluded, the availability of a national building register where I can check if I want to buy this building. Yeah. It's a challenge we need to face so that we can assure our clients, our users, of the condition of the buildings they're staying in.
All right.
Vivian, if I may, just adding on to that, I think President mentioned the press that we had, and we actually called for all counties to have a public register of high-risk projects that are ongoing, because that is information that needs to be the public eye. That if there are buildings being constructed in my town, I should know how they're being constructed, who are the consultants, who is the developer. I think this is something that's required. The other thing is, and it's very important, that if you are a developer, if you are a builder, if you are investing in this, once the contractor or the building team has finished, they should give you a drawing that is updated. Remember, you have the drawing that you submitted and you started building with. Yes. But things change during construction because of various needs. So there is a drawing called as built. They basically measure what they have done, and then you remain with it. And that is not just architectural, not just an architectural plan. It also has the structural, it shows the structural elements, including the foundation, how it was done. If the depth increased from a meter to 1.5, it also shows electrical lines, where they're passing, because you can't see them. And very importantly, the register is talking about, you know, banks right now, you can't borrow money using a house which is not approved. Yeah, when you go to get a loan from the bank, they'll require that you have a stamp from a qualified QS on the cost of the house, the drawings are approved. So we can use this aspect of financing as a way of making sure these reports, because the quality of the house can only be as good as the information that's available about that house.
Okay.
Yes.
We need to wind up on the conversation. Maybe your final remarks each, 30 seconds each.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vivian and KBC, for having this session. I really think it's very important. Our emphasis is really on the developer. Please know that you are involved in putting up a structure that is going to carry lives of people. Do no development without involving professionals. If we resolve that, we will have achieved a lot. Number two, the counties. Planning is a devolved function. Please staff the planning departments. Have the position of chief planner, the position of chief architect, the position of chief engineer staffed, and let the process of approval make or add value to building safety. Let us not reduce approval process to revenue generation for counties. If we have to stop this problem of collapsing, counties are very vital, and I'm very glad the Institution of Engineers of Kenya worked with the Council of Governors in developing site inspection handbook, because we know the criticality of the counties. And most importantly, as Kenyans and all of us, it's our responsibility. Let us drop these shortcuts, because we have seen they're killing us. It is very costly to do the wrong thing, because to amend that, it is almost, impossible, and if you achieve, it is very costly.
All right, thank you.
For me, I think good things take time. It's very true to buildings. Buildings are done for long periods of time, and they're supposed to outlive even the builder and the occupants. So we need to do the right processes. We need to use the right information. There's no rush. If you get money today and you know that there's a need, out there for housing, that should not be your impetus. The most important thing is that what is the output, and the quality of the housing, as in some cases where quality of houses actually degrades because of the way the process was done. But if you do the right way, the value of those houses improve over time.
All right, thank you so very much, Engineer Shama and President Arabu, for joining us and for shedding light on this very important conversation. This is where we end Good Morning Kenya. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Goodbye.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we
have to do it twice.
It was a day that changed his life forever. A hit-and-run accident left 15-year-old Ferdinand Kierie fighting for his survival. But through occupational therapy, his journey to recovery is a story of resilience.
A little bit, step, yes, step a little bit, just slowly, and do side again, that side again, that side again, that side again, step back, step back, step back, step back. Very good. Can you move yourself now?
Occupational therapy, often shortened to OT, is a form of therapy that helps individuals achieve independence in their day-to-day activities after illness, injury, or disability. It is for anyone whose life has been disrupted, be it from a road traffic accident, a stroke, cerebral palsy, arthritis, or even mental health challenges. It isn't about occupation as a job, rather about your daily occupations like bathing, grooming, cooking, schoolwork, and even playing. With the unwavering support of his parents, Ferdinand is slowly rebuilding his life through occupational therapy at the Kenyatta National Hospital.
Huyu mtoto alipatwa accident akienda shule, ilikuwa 6:30. Ikakuwa ni hit and run kutoka 17th October last year. Tumekuwa na yeye kwa muda huo wote tukimfanyisha therapy. Alikuwa na mambo mengi yenyewe, lakini kwa venye tumeendelea kwa hii hospitali ya Kenyatta, tukaongeleshwa tukuje after ametoka ward na ICU, tukakuja huku kwa occupation therapy na tumeona venye tumeendelea vizuri.
Just a few months ago, he was fighting for his life here at the Kenyatta National Hospital. His path to recovery has been long, but with every day, he is one step closer to regaining his future. Dr. Eric Mumanyi, a speech and language therapist, has helped Ferdinand recover his speech back.
When the boy came to our facility, he was not able to use or to coordinate his eyes and the hands because of he got affected from the accident. And as we've been doing the therapy, he's able to get the colors done. Fedi?
Yes.
He's trying to coordinate his eyes as well as his hand to color the activity. Also this one, you know, he was a boy in school. And in so doing, he's able to coordinate school vis-a-vis hospital. When he came to the hospital, 1 year of he was not able to coordinate. Now, I'm trying to bring back that self-esteem that he can be able to write, and as he goes back home, he's able to redo whatever he was doing, that is schooling. Here he is. Now he's able to color. And I'm confident that he's going to achieve his goals in school. As an occupational therapist, I'm here to give that.
Through the therapy, Dr. Eric has also helped Ferdinand coordinate his movements.
You remember our game?
Yes.
Concentration is the game.
Keep reading if you can.
Fedi, Fedi.
Educating.
Fedi, Fedi.
Educating.
Now, I want us to mention this thing together, okay?
Okay.
Now, how I move. Can you repeat that with me?
How I move.
How
I move.
Today, I want us to learn how things move. People do what?
Walk.
People walk.
Yes.
And that's what I'm expecting from you. That in few days you're going to walk back to
school.
Good. Now, here I go. First animal that I know you'll get interested in.
Yes.
What is that?
A monkey.
A monkey. How does a monkey move?
By swinging.
Can you swing using your hands? Swing. Swing using use your hands to swing. Swing, swing, swing. 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 Good.
Fast.
You want faster?
No.
Okay.
I was saying so that I cannot lose the balance.
Don't
then
worry.
fall.
I'm here for you. Okay?
Okay then.
The first animal was?
A monkey.
The second one is, guess?
A cheetah.
A cheetah. How does a cheetah move?
By running.
How? Show
Fast.
me. Show me. Good. Initially, this boy was not able to do and to coordinate such. But as we went on through various activities, he was able to imitate animals. He was able to imitate the environment around him. And now you can see the way he's coordinating his hands very well. And is able to merge with his way of doing things. Remember, our goal is to get this boy back to school, walking.
The road to physical recovery has been the hardest. The accident left Ferdinand with inability to chew and swallow food. But slowly, with patience and persistence, he has begun to regain skills that so many of us never think twice about.
We are demonstrating how now he's able to feed. Initially, he was using the percutaneous endoscopic gastrostomy tube because he had issues, a problem with his muscles. He couldn't swallow, he couldn't coordinate the chewing muscles and even swallowing in his speech. Now we trained the muscle. We were able to rehabilitate the oral muscles and the neck muscles. And now for the first time he's able to chew and to taste food using his mouth. And just we want to demonstrate how he's been able to achieve that milestone in swallowing and in his ability to feed. Can you take your juice, Ferdinand? You have a little bit of coordination problem, but that one is also good. In occupational therapy, we say you use occupation as a means and occupation as an end. Occupation as a means, you assess the function of the patient, and also as an end, that at the end of it is able to perform that activity like feeding, is able to perform that activity. Now you can see he's able to suck juice from the bucket through the straw, and he was able also to bite the cake and eat the cake, which means that the muscles, his oral muscles, have been successfully been rehabilitated. He's able to coordinate them, the lips, the teeth, the tongue, and even the throat to be able to swallow. Now his quality of life has improved, and even as you can see, his health has improved because now he's able to feed just as normal as he used to be before. So it's no longer a challenge even to parents to feeding him through the percutaneous gastrostomy tube, which requires also high nursing skill and high hygiene skill because it can cause infection. But this one now He's happy, he's able to feed, and I think we have discharged him as far as swallowing therapy is concerned.
For Ferdinand, every swallow and movement is a triumph. The therapies have become a journey of rebuilding not just his physical abilities, but also his confidence.
Yes, now you can taste food for after how long time? The long time you've been feeding through the tube? 10 months.
Yes.
How was your food?
I didn't feel even a taste.
Yes.
I didn't even feel any sweetness or any taste.
But now you can feed on, you told me nyama choma?
Yes.
Oh, you can eat nyama choma.
Oh yes, I can.
And which other food? Any food.
Food I can able to eat it.
Very good. Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Because of you and God.
Yes.
You have helped me a lot.
A lot.
Yes.
We thank God for you.
Yes, we thank God for it.
Ferdinand's parents have seen a lot of improvements on their son, and that gives them hope.
Improvement yameimprove sana because initially hakuwa hata naweza kusimama, mikono yenyewe hata ilikuwa stiff, haikuwa ina move. Shingo yenyewe hata hakuwa inasafiri, ilikuwa tu ana move right left. But after therapy tumeendelea vizuri, akakuja mikono akaanza kustretch, miguu pia. Bado kuna therapy nyingine anafanyiwa physiotherapy, but inafanyiwa like twice a week at home. Sasa hapa tunakuja hii occupational therapy hiyo ya viungo. Tulikuwa tunatumia splint, but these days now he is not using splint. Now he is studying. Now we are looking forward to the day he's starting to work.
His mother encourages other people who have patients with similar conditions about the importance of occupational therapy.
Kwa mashauri yangu kama mzazi, nimesema ya kwanza ni kuwa na uhusiano na Mungu, kuomba Mungu akusaidie kwa hii mambo, sababu si rahisi venye mtu anaweza fikiria, na upendo mwingi kwa ule mgonjwa mtu ako naye, na kufuatilia maagizo ya daktari. Kuna wengine wanaambiwangwa ati enda speech therapy, wengine wanapuuza wakifikiria how will it work. Lakini sisi kulingana venye tumeendelea na mtoto wetu, kusema ukweli ina work. Hiyo ukiambiwa kama ni speech therapy, fuatilia, sababu mtoto wetu nasikia hakuwa anaongea, tumefuatilia huku na hao madaktari, tulikuwa na Shivashi, tulikuwa na Eric, na wametusaidia sana. Mtoto ameweza kuongea, mtoto kwa sahi hatumii mpira, anakula kwa mdomo yake. So wenye mko nyumbani na mko na wagonjwa kama hawa, ningemuhimiza mutilie maanani ya kuenda hospitali. Fanyeni hiyo therapy, ina work, inafanya kazi.
The journey to recovery is never easy, but it is always worth it. For Ferdinand, learning to swallow, chew and eat again is just the beginning. With every step, he's rediscovering a new part of himself, a new chapter in his story of resilience. This is not just a story of survival. This is a story of triumph, of a young boy overcoming the odds to reclaim his life.
I am feeling good, and I have noticed a lot of progress in my body. Yes.
Like what?
Like talking, eating with my mouth. You see, like almost a month ago, I used to use a feeding tube, but now I can use my mouth. Yes. And I can use my hands to feed myself. Yes.
So now you can talk.
Yes. I really give thanks to God and my doctors who have helped me a lot.
You two should consider street performance.
We'll do it once back.
Did we spend just now? 300 grand?
What's wrong? 120,000 shillings.
120,000?
How much did you give?
1.2 million.
Huh?
Why do you give me 1.2 million?
Why? Hey, ladies, help me out.
Keep asking him.
Brother, okay, so please, next time when you're paying, be careful, okay?
Oh, thank you, sir. You're so kind.
Friday night again.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra niceness of reggae music,
extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we have
to do it twice.
Hate speech and harassment online. Be it on TikTok, Instagram, or X, women all over the world are targeted, but especially politically active women. And it all follows a similar pattern. But why, and what can we do about it? Hidden behind a computer screen, people seem to lose their inhibitions. Some use shocking and brutal insults they would never dare to say to someone's face.